Welcome back. We're here with the final episode of the Mushoku Tensei podcast, and we put the jobless in jobless reincarnation, baby. I'm here with my man Pokecole. I'm actually hosting this time.
No way. This dude's hosting.
On your channel, that's right.
Oh, hell nah. Are you editing it then for me?
Yeah.
You don't sound terribly convinced.
I've done my fair share. I've been in the sweatshop.
Yeah, no. The stuff you edit is harder than what I edit mostly, so,
Mostly.
nah, you're good.
Sometimes.
Yeah, depends.
Alright, well.
Yeah, we're covering final stretch of the web novel today. We're not going to talk about any side stories or anything like that.
There's too many. We'd be here forever.
A, because there's too fucking many, and B, because Justin hasn't read any of them yet, so.
Yeah, I'm slacking.
Myself, I read Old Dragon's Tale, I read all of Redundancy, I read Jobless Oblige, and I read Light Novel 7, we talked about that tiny bit, but
We did.
I'm like halfway through Suppression of the Kingdom of the Dragon King or whatever. I think that one's like barely translated. Like, that one is tough.
It's on the realm of existing and not. We don't know.
It looks like computer translated, kind of, not really, just like not someone with not a great grasp of either language, probably. And then like I've heard like dubious things about whether or not it's actually canon at all. I don't know.
It's like the Duang translation.
It's a little bit better than that. It's a little bit
just
better than
a little bit.
But you know, like the really bad chapters of like the web novel translation,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like a couple of them are really bad. It's like that.
I was taking a drink of water. Yeah. There are some bad ones in there.
Yeah, definitely. But you know, that stuff is still good though. So
I'll probably read it eventually. Maybe one day we'll make a podcast episode on it. Who knows?
Yeah, that would be cool. Just cover all the side stories and stuff. I think, like, Old Dragon's Tale is super interesting and important. Jobless Oblige is probably my favorite side story I've read. If it was like,
that's the one with
Seacart.
Seacart, yeah.
Seacart, Selden, Grey Rat. That shit is really good. Like, that's probably one of my favorite Mushoku Tensei things in general. I mean, I just loved it to death.
Sheesh.
So that was pretty sick. Yeah. And then like Redundancy has like ups and downs. It's like really, I mean, it's redundancy, right? And so the whole point was like he wanted to write about shit that like wouldn't fit the pacing and tone of like the main story. So like stuff that's like generally like so not important that he wouldn't even make it a side chapter or something, you know?
Yeah.
But there's some stuff that's really good, some stuff that's really bad and needs to be written.
I did hear about that.
That they actually banned discussion of that in the Mushoku Tensei Discord.
Mushoku Tensei author writes chapters so bad, asked to leave.
Yeah. It's like, there's also a lot of people who like it because some, like one character in particular gets a lot of character development that was needed for quite a while, but like, I think it also fucks up their character in some ways, and I think it's just like a poorly written scenario. Like you could have the same development but write it better, pretty much. So
yeah. I have no idea, but I've heard the rumors. So
yeah, as they say, it's connected on the family tree with a bruh moment. So but yeah. So we're going through volume 20 because we ended up end of volume 19 last time.
Yup, 20 to the end.
Volume 20 to the end, baby. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Whew. I mean,
there's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about. I mean, this is what volume 20 is like.
Zenoba,
yep. It's 13 chapters plus like 5 side stories or something. There's a lot.
Are there?
I'm looking at it. There's like 20.5. There's like 4 chapters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then a side story. And then volume 21 is 12 chapters. And then 23 is like fucking 21 chapters.
Yeah, that's a long one.
That's a big one. It's extensive. But
luckily, I think they're pretty easy to like summarize because a lot of the action is streamlined. It's not as slow paced.
Right, definitely.
Because I mean, with at least with the Zenoba arc, it's pretty much Zenoba's been, oh, I've been summoned, and Rudius is like, why would you go? Pax is an asshole.
Yeah, because basically Pax overthrew, he usurped the whole country.
Yeah, I think we talked about that a little, because I think you started with that, and I was like, we should probably save
that he gets
the
a
rest of
letter
it for next time, yeah.
Probably. Yeah, so basically he gets a letter from King Noshirone, says, everyone's dead, Pax killed them all, he is now the king. And also, since he's now the king, come help us.
Everyone's
because
fucking dead!
We're all dead, and also we're getting invaded from the north. So we need your support because you're a Miko and you are strong.
Yep.
Which he is.
And the whole time, Rudius is just like, Pax is probably just going to try to get you killed. He probably doesn't like you. Much. And Zeno was like, oh, I know, but I have to go, so.
Yeah. His overwhelming loyalty to his country is at least the guise that he puts up for most of this, for why he needs to go. But, yeah. And then so Rudius goes with him because I don't think Orsted tells him why, which, oh my god, Orsted, please communicate with Rudius better. But Orsted is like, Pax will eventually create a republic out of the Shirone Kingdom, which will be, like, super important development in the world, and very good. And we would prefer for that to happen than to not happen. So we're like, okay, makes sense. Mm-hmm. So,
has he still not told him that he can loop through time? I thought he did by now.
No, he has, but
okay. Yeah,
that's in volume 18, or maybe early 19. I know what the chapter title is.
We definitely talked about it last time, so I just forgot.
Yeah, we definitely.
It's been a hot minute.
Yeah, Truth of Orsted. That's volume 18, chapter 12.
Okay, yeah, so he does know.
So he knows that, but he doesn't tell him why the kingdom, why the kingdom of Shirone is an important thing to have a republic that is led by Pax happen, which I guess I'll just say it now. It's important because if the Republic of Shirone gets made and all that kind of stuff, a certain merchant will be born, and that certain merchant will become very powerful and influential, and his daughter will be Lapis, the reincarnation of Lapis.
Oh yeah, so it basically solidifies where Lapis will be born. So he's like,
which is a complete win condition, right? Like,
yeah.
If you know where Lapis is going to be born, instead of going into a huge, crazy war where he's gathered the forces of like all the magic race and stuff like that, you just murder him pretty quickly, and it's a pretty easy deal. But doesn't quite go as planned, unfortunately. I mean, that seems like one of the most important things for Orsted to get right on a loop.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you think about it in terms of like a fighting game, even if you know what your opponent's gonna do, you're gonna win.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's the difference in whether he has to spend the mana to kill Lapis when he is very young, or spend the mana and has very few followers, or the mana between killing him in the middle of a giant war where he has half of the world on his side, roughly. That kind of deal, which is pretty. I mean, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, extremely huge deal.
So that's why it's important. And it just is like, okay, well, now I can help Orsted and help Zenoba, so it's kind of a win-win.
Yeah. But unfortunately, Rudius doesn't learn that, and so he kind of underestimates the situation, honestly.
Does he? I thought he was, terrified the whole time.
Well, yeah, he's terrified, but he doesn't understand the importance of
actually
having
succeeding.
The Republic happen.
Okay.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. He just kind of is I don't. He's just really fixated on the worst case scenario is that Pax kills Zenoba or something.
That is a pretty bad case scenario.
Which would suck a lot, but
Zenoba's the goat.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, what happens during these chapters? War stuff starts. Zenoba and Rudius and Roxy, because Roxy's here with him.
Oh, yeah, and I guess the big thing is that before he even goes, he learns that Randolph is one of Pax's subordinates, one of the 7 world powers, number 5, I think, right?
5 out of the 7,
yep.
Yeah.
The Death God.
The Death God, hell yeah. Randolph Marion. So,
he's like, what the fuck, how?
Very strong.
First of all, how? And second, that's terrifying.
Because he's been employed under the Kingdom of the Dragon King, and they allied with Pax to usurp the kingdom, basically.
Yep.
And which is one hell of a loan. But we find out, and Orsted suspects this pretty much immediately, that someone in the Kingdom of the Dragon King is probably Hitogami's apostle.
Yeah, I think he thinks it's Randolph.
Well, he thinks it's either Randolph the king or someone else, maybe. We learned that Randolph actually already knows about Hitogami, but isn't an apostle, just someone he knew was manipulated by Hitogami. So, like,
yeah, he just kind of does his own thing. Randolph's kind of raw.
Yeah, at that point, you can kind of like assume that Randolph would not be the kind of guy to be manipulated by Hitogami at all, really.
Yeah.
So the deal, and also you probably wouldn't think that, I don't know. It's kind of hard to believe a little bit that Pax would be manipulated necessarily, just because his fate is very strong, and he kind of already has an idea of what he wants to do. But, I mean, this loop in general is kind of messed up, and hard. It's hard for Orsted to understand this situation compared to, like, the Asura deal, where it's like he knows all the variables super hardcore because they're generally the same pretty much every time, whereas in this particular loop, like Pax always will overthrow Shirone, right? Like that pretty much is fated to happen.
I didn't even really think of that because Pax is a lot more mentally, I guess, disturbed is the right word, since Rudius existed in this timeline because of Roxy. So
right, yeah, but it's also, I think the implication is that in previous loops, like the Kingdom of Dragon King was like pretty much a non-factor in this because I was just rereading it. Pax talks about how the only way he got the Kingdom of Dragon King support in the first place was he was exiled, which may or may not happen in other loops. But in this loop, it happened because Rudius exposed him being a fucking prick and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But even then, it was because of that, like, Pax realized, compared to Zenoba and Rudius, that he was kind of a good for nothing. They made him look bad, and that it was because he wasn't doing enough. And so he worked really hard to better himself. You know, since he was training more of his magic, he was physically training. He has like some amount of abs now, which is impressive.
True, he was fat before.
Yeah, and all that kind of stuff. And so he wants to get married to Benedict, the blue-haired girl from the Kingdom of Dragon King, who's not like
her name was Benedict.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Benedict Arnold.
Yeah. Who she is like also like she's technically a princess, but like not good standing. I think it was like a mistress situation or something. I don't really remember.
I don't either. But she's not. I wouldn't say she's a super important character. So
yeah. The point is she's a princess, but like not one that they see favorably.
Yeah.
But Pax and her fall in love and all that kind of stuff. And the Kingdom of Dragon King, their king, seeing that Pax has made like such an effort to make himself better despite being a quote-unquote good-for-nothing kind of thing, like gives him the support to marry Benedict. Says, well, it could have been anyone else, like any of the other princesses, and I would approve it. Unfortunately, it's her, but whatever, that's fine. And so he's like, but you still need the good title to make this doable, so here's some support, go overthrow Shirone, right?
Yeah.
And then he lends him Death God Randolph. So, pretty big loan. Pretty big loan.
That one's got an interest rate on it.
Yeah. So we learned that the actual king of Kingdom of Dragon King was the Hitogami's apostle, right? So probably what happened was he manipulated him into basically agreeing upon that, pretty much, right? Yeah. That's what I would assume.
Well, I guess I'm trying to think about what Hitogami, because he wanted this to fail, right? So,
well, the thing is, it's fated to like that. The overthrowing will pretty much always happen. Like that much is fated, like pretty much out of Hitogami's control.
Well, so I'm thinking, does Hitogami directly oppose Lapis? Like, or is Hitogami trying to protect Lapis from Orsted? I have no idea.
He's trying to protect Lapis from Orsted.
Okay,
because basically he wants the war with Lapis to be as difficult as possible, so Orsted either fails it or has to use a ton of mana and not be able to beat Hitogami.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So he wants to, like, you know, Lapras, like, him knowing where Lapras is born and killing him very easily is, like, worst possible case scenario.
Okay.
Because it means Orsted's coming at him with a lot more mana than he would normally have. So, yeah. So basically, he wants he wants this whole situation to not quite happen the same way. And I don't know if it's made very clear, particularly what Hidogami manipulates. I don't remember if this was a I guess I'll talk. It would make more sense to talk in chronological order, but basically they get there. Zenoba, Roxy, and Rudius fight at the fortress to deter the North Army.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of stuff happens there. I think it's pretty good.
Rudius
chapter.
goes crazy.
Yeah, Rudius kills a bunch of people. For the first time he kills someone.
He sets up like traps. He fucking throws tornadoes at him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool because, like, previously, well, I really like just the amount of thought that goes into, like, the geography of the location, right? How much it matters in a battle. Even if it does kind of just end up being like, and because of that, we snowball, you know, that kind of thing.
They make a literal fucking ravine, so.
Right, yeah.
They sculpt the damn ground. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, all those details were super cool. But, you know, previously we even talked about this a little bit, where it was like, you know, the Saint and King class magic and all that kind of stuff, the actual spells themselves kind of suck, right? Like,
yeah,
in a one-on-one fight with, like, a swordsman or something, like, you're not using that.
In most cases, it seems like using low-level spells at King level or Saint level is almost better than using Saint level or King level magic.
Yeah, by far. But this is one of those scenarios where, you know, they're fighting an army of, like, 5,000 or something.
Yeah, so you need AoE
this is where it's
spells,
like, yeah, the AoE type shit is way better. So this is a case where it's like, oh, Saint class magic is, like, way more practical in this regard. And because of that, they just wipe out people.
Column Nimbus.
Yeah. Cumulonimbus.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was afraid you were going to say Columbine for a second. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'm not Gavin, really. Now you said it.
Yeah. Yeah, and so even if it became like a war of attrition there, it's like Rudius has so much more mana than the rest of the other side's magicians that it's like, you know, he's better than 10 magicians pretty much kind of deal.
Yeah,
so.
his mana is actually fucking insane.
Yeah,
it's like he uses these spells. He's like, oh, I'm gonna cut it, tell you. That shit was a little hard. I don't know.
Yeah. All while wearing magic armor and shit. So yeah, all that happens. There's a lot of emphasis put on, you know, Rudius really, like, this is the first time he's actually had to kill someone. Even if it's like nameless person in a war scenario, it's like, it's a big deal to him.
Yeah.
A lot of people,
it's not just one, it's many people.
Yeah, it's a lot. And as we find out, like, you know, at the start of the battle, Zenoba takes 100 people and he says, okay, we're going to go capture the commander kind of deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he comes back with like a dozen people instead of 100, but has captured the commander alive. So he'll pretty much just get to end the war for free with prisoner of war stuff. Because it's royalty. And Rudius is like, oh my god, a lot of people died. Is that worth 90 men? He's like, oh, absolutely. The war's just over now kind of deal.
Oh my god.
But also Zenoba is like, yeah, seeing Saint class magic in the distance as opposed to like basically on top of you is really different. And he's like, oh, I didn't like hurt you guys or anything with it, did I?
Didn't Zenoba get like struck by lightning again or something?
I don't know if he actually
got lit on fire or something. I thought, I don't know,
maybe. But Zenoba says, like, matter of factly, oh, there's always sacrifices in war, like, and so Rudius is like, wow, I probably killed people I have eaten together with at this fort, like, with my AoE magic, you know, that kind of stuff. So that hits him pretty hard.
He fights with Roxy too, which is pretty cool. So
yeah, that is pretty cool.
I don't know if we mentioned that Roxy was there with him.
Yeah, we did a little bit, okay. But I like the dichotomy between the two because she's like way more used to this kind of thing.
She's like, yep, that's just business, baby.
Like, yeah, you just gotta kill him, dude. That's what happens. But a lot of people have complained actually about Rudius being like so in his feels about this section in particular because, you know, a lot of people are just like, if it was me, I would just kill them all. I wouldn't even care. Like,
if it was me, I'd be the coolest and the strongest. Doesn't afraid of anything.
Okay, Mom, I'm coming down for dinner. Jeez,
I got pizza rolls.
Yeah. But it's like also the author has talked about it because enough people complain about it to where it reached the author's ears at
I do
some
remember
point.
that. He had like a Q&A in one of the web novel things or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was like, people were like, why is he so disturbed by it kind of thing? And the author was like, he is someone who has literally experienced death. Of course it would be traumatic for him. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
It's super terrifying.
He almost died from fucking Orsted. Actually, and he
almost died from Orsted.
He also got hit by a bus.
By a truck. And, by a truck and did die, in fact. So, I think makes a lot of sense.
All that aside, it's just makes him a more interesting character.
Yeah,
I would not be as like, it wouldn't be as funny as like, oh yeah, I'm strong, I just do all this and I'm super strong now, so I kill everyone.
I like that it's an innate struggle.
Yeah. I mean, flawed characters are always more fun to watch than perfect characters.
Unless it's Sakamoto.
Well, that's different. He's a god, you can't hold him to a human level.
It's like, people are like, oh, if, reincarnated, he should just have like, he should just lose all of his ethics and morals. Like, oh yeah, suddenly now I'm reincarnated, killing is totally cool. I'm just, it's just whatever. But no, I think it's well written. I like that part. But then they come back and they learn big stuff has happened in Shirone while they were gone. They get word from Ginger. Ginger says, under the banner of the 11th Prince, an uprising has occurred, and it's got a ton of popular support throughout the country. Through, I think the prince is through the warlord Jade and some other people. There's an 11th prince like Haruha or something. Prince. I like bit my tongue. Yeah. And basically the deal is like, I don't know, illegitimate child of the king and stuff. They don't know if he's even really directly blood related or not, but people think he is. So uprising is totally possible for like a reason to be royalty kind of deal.
Yeah.
So there's a big uprising behind that. And I actually don't remember if this warlord Jade is a apostle of Hitogami. I want to say
he was.
Yes.
Yeah, he was.
Was he? Okay, yeah.
I'm almost certain I remember that being a thing. So
okay, cool. Because I didn't see that in the parts I reread, but distinctly possible.
I can look it up again. What was his actual name? Hold on. Warlord Jade or something.
Yeah, there's Jade and like Haruha is the name of like the prince, I think. I don't know is that the same person or not? I don't actually remember. Either way, the deal is like, what happens is this big uprising happens. They've surrounded the castle. All of Pax's troops have fled pretty much because he didn't have a very big force to begin with. It was kind of just all carried by the strength of Death God Marion, Randolph. So
yeah,
Randolph is like, I use my fucking absolute void eye to surround the castle and a barrier no one can come through.
It's like, absolute void eye.
That's the exact name of it. Absolute void eye.
Rather raw.
Yeah, he's got like it's like they describe because he has an eye patch normally, and it's like he's using it. He's got the eye patch taken off, and his pupil is like a 6-sided star or a 6-pointed star.
Yeah,
and shit. And it's like, what the fuck? Okay, cool.
He looks fucking pretty scary. I don't know if you've seen any pictures of him.
I want to say I have, but
yeah,
I'll look it up real fast.
It's on the web or the light novel cover on the top left. You can see him there. It's kind of terrifying.
Oh yeah. I can't lie. I just imagine fucking like Death Knight from Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Yeah,
usually,
I think I was like, I imagine fucking Death the Kid from what was the name? Soul Eater. That's what I was thinking of.
What?
I don't know. He's called the Death God. I haven't even seen Soul Eater. I don't know why that's what came to my mind.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, he's a scary dude.
He's kind of nice though. Actually, he just looks scary.
Yeah, he's actually a pretty good guy. He just kind of doesn't give a fuck about anything though. Like,
yeah,
like he totally did just try to kill Roxy, and like even though he like almost entirely knowing it's a misunderstanding and it doesn't really matter, he doesn't really care.
Yeah.
So what's the deal here? So he gets there, and Zenoba wants to see Pax, and Randolph is like, nope, can't see Pax. And Rudius, fucking learning from the Orsted school of being a moron, is like, do you know of Hitogami? And he's like, yeah, I know of Hitogami. He's like, I see, you're an apostle then. Like,
yeah, I didn't even think of it. Like, the longer the story goes on, the more, like, Orsted he becomes.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the thing is, like, with the Hitogami Apostle, it's so difficult to really know beyond that. Like, the only guaranteeing thing is if they react to Hitogami, like...
They know of them, which means
they know of
one
them,
of two things.
Yeah. And almost everyone who knows of Hitogami has been an Apostle. Almost everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, at this point, it's really, like... I don't know if it's the best writing, but I think it's understandable in that you can't, like, involve yourself with every single person and understand them well to the point where it's, like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for Orsted especially, where it's, like, he's looped so many times, it's just, like, the value of human life to him is just, like, he just makes assumptions. He does not care.
Yeah.
That kind of deal. But, in this particular scenario, it leads to fight. And, I mean... Randolph has a crazy ass power, right? He's got his strongest technique is sort of bewitching, which combines two other techniques, which basically individually are one of them makes you feel like you should attack when you should really defend, and the other makes you feel like you should defend.
It's a really
when
fucked
you feel
up
like you should
ability.
attack. I mean, it's really fucked up because and Orsted's like, oh, once you know about it though, it's not that hard to beat. You just like do the opposite of what you think you should do, kind of thing, which is like. Okay, simple enough. I guess that makes sense. But then, like, when you get into the heat of the fight, like, Rudius is like, okay, so I don't know, I like, he's, like, baiting me in, so it's like, I kind of feel like I should attack, but, like, he's kind of tricking me, so maybe what I should do is I should defend, right? But then it's like, oh, but then sort of bewitching, so maybe really I should attack.
You ever played Simon Says? It's just like that.
Yeah, like, what do you do, dude? Flip a coin? Like
Simon Says attack. Simon didn't say that.
Yeah. So, it's like really scary. It would be, unironically, it would be something way stronger against like dumber characters. Like, someone like Alexander or Tofe would not have an issue with it if they just knew the idea of like do the opposite, right? Because like they're never hesitating in their decision making in the first place, so it wouldn't be a big deal. But for someone like Rudius, who's like he has to like double think his decisions every time and then add another layer on top of that, it's like he's just never gonna make the right decision, which
natural
he doesn't
enemy.
Yeah,
not really.
Which in this case it kind of works for him, right? Because basically he makes the decision to just end the battle so no one dies, kind of thing, and then they go, oh yeah, there was no point in us fighting in the first place, right? Because obviously he's not a Hitogami apostle.
Sorry, I tried to kill your wife. My bad.
Yeah. It's funny the way he says, he's like, well, I don't want to kill any of you anyways. And he's like, okay, but that was a fatal attack. Like, she would be dead right now if not for the thing. And he was like, yeah. Like, okay, that's what's up. That's what's up.
Little oopsie, a little fucky wucky.
Yeah, pretty funny. I mean, Death God is just like, it's like, he trained with current North God, who should be Alexander at this point, even though he hasn't really particularly taken the title. Alexander the Third, Alexander Ryback.
Yeah, I learned about that guy in history.
Yeah. Jesus. So they trained together, but at some point he kind of got excommunicated or left. They got into an argument or something, and he just kind of focused on developing his own style. So technically he uses no style, but I mean, he's really the embodiment of North God, where it's like, whatever works, kind of deal. I mean, he literally quote unquote kills Roxy and gets the jump on them by like intentionally fucking up his stance and all kinds of crazy things, which was like half an accident, like half actually fucking it up and half not fucking it up. Like some of it is like, oops, I do actually lose my stance, that's not good, and half of it is also like, oh no, like I definitely can't slash you from this angle, like which is just entirely perplexing. And then he gets the jump on Rudius by being like, Rudius like shoots a bunch of stone cannons at him, and it's like, well, he's immobilized, and it's like, oh yes, this should work, and it completely like is negated, and he's like, what? Wait, what happened? And in that exact moment where he's thinking, wait, what could have negated it so easily? Death God Randolph says, Death God Sama, you finally come to assist me, and like looks behind him, like as if there's someone else there, which prompts Rudius to be like, what the fuck is happening here? Because he's just looking for any excuse for what just happened, and so sure enough, he turns around, gets distracted for half a moment. Of course, there's no one there, and Randolph gets the upper hand and slashes.
You tell me
Roxy,
this dude a goddamn North God style.
He's a North God, fucking Chad. Fucking said, "Who's that behind you?" Like,
watch out!
I mean, what is the limit to North God techniques? At what point is the North God technique going to be Lucy? What like? Like
what's
anything.
up, dog?
Yeah, actually. Oh my gosh! But I thought it worked pretty well. I could see people seeing that kind of stuff as like really just being overly stupid, but the reason it works because it's in the context of like Rudy's already looking for an excuse and a reason for what just happened that he can't explain.
Dude,
so
no, I just think North God style's unbeatable. It's not his fault.
Yeah, that's fair, dude. North God style is kind of broken.
Kind of fucked up. Even
if like the quote unquote strongest style is probably Sword God, North God is still pretty fucked up. I mean, in the current timeline, right, the strongest of the three heads of the styles is the Sword God. So we learn in redundancy at least that current Sword God is stronger than the current North God and current Water God probably because it's just Isolde and she's like she's like Emperor-ish level, so it's like whatever. The author also talked about in an interview, someone asked him who would like win in a fight, like Rada, Water God Rada, or Golfarion. And the way he put it basically was like, if Rada gets a perfect counter, she wins and Golfarion dies.
Mm-hmm.
But if it doesn't go perfectly, then Golfarion wins. And basically because Golfarion is like in better condition and has like a little bit better prowess, he has more opportunities to make an unpredictable opening than she has like opportunities to counter successfully. So there's just a higher chance that Golfarion would win. So yeah. So yeah, I mean North God is pretty fucking broken.
It sure is.
Let's see. So that all happens.
All the sword gods are really broken though, so
yeah, I mean swordsmanship in general is just really broken.
It's strong as hell.
The only reason Water God isn't like that much of a force in the narrative is just because that style is just because it's like, contextually there's not as many people who are able to learn it. Like everyone can learn Sword God because it's just fucking go in like an idiot unless you're Rudius or something, right?
Yeah.
Like the strategy is just like push yourself over and over. Whether or not you can reach the top level is something else, but like Water God is a lot of like disciplined, like mental fortitude kind of stuff. While it is like maybe the strongest in a vacuum, there's very few people who get to that level compared to even Sword God.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of an issue of like not enough people practice it that well.
Skill issue.
Yeah, a little bit of a skill issue indeed. But then again, technically the strongest swordsman in the whole series uses Water God style, being Orsted. So if you think about it, yeah. But he also has like all the Sword God techniques and shit too. So, I mean, dude can do sort of like with his bare hands, like
yeah.
So that fight happens, and we learn Zenoba's true motive for really, really wanting to come here was that he, Pax is his last remaining like flesh and blood, pretty much. It's his brother, that kind of deal, and someone that he was ultimately, even though Pax was a dickhead a lot of time, pretty close with, and doesn't want to see him die. Simple enough. Anyone could have probably thought that, right? So it's nice. It's nice.
And then Pax, yeah,
yeah. Basically, they, Pax has been surrounded. They've barricaded themselves in. It looks like they can barricade themselves pretty indefinitely for the most part. And that they probably could turn the tides of this uprising, but it'll still be hard after without popular support kind of deal. But Pax is so disturbed mentally at this point, which is kind of through the, pretty much because of Rudius, right?
And Roxy, the combo.
Well, yeah, and Roxy. Roxy wouldn't have been like that, though, without Rudius.
I kind of mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, so basically Pax is like, nobody likes me, that kind of shit. The whole country wants this Jade to be the leader instead, or Haruha, or whoever it is.
Mm-hmm.
They want them to be the leader instead. Like, there's a ton of people around my castle. Even if we do break through, it'll suck, kind of thing. And he's like, I don't really have the confidence or motivation to do this at this point, because basically we learn he's been like very mentally disturbed by when Roxy was training him. Even though he was a pretty good student, like ultimately he was pretty talented, even if he was like a terrible person. But he was constantly compared to Rudius, who was like even more talented. And Roxy was a really bad teacher in the way that she was pretty much always like, sigh, Rudius was way better at this. Why can't you be more like him, kind of thing.
I mean, it's kind of mean, but...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she really kind of fucks with his head in the long run. And at this point, it drives him to suicide. He jumps off at the end and dies. And so technically the uprising works, kind of deal. Which is pretty much a loss for the Orsted side, right? I mean, the real win condition was, like Orsted said, no matter what, don't let Pax die, kind of thing. Or don't kill Pax.
Mission failed. If he is
an apostle.
I fucked up.
Yeah, mission failed. Because never in their minds did they think he would commit suicide, right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even expect that reading it, so there you go.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I think it was a good turn. It kind of goes a long ways to, he kind of felt like he had done what he wanted to do already, which was like pretty much conceive a child with Benedict and, have her be set with Death God to take care of her and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure they can just live happily. But, it's just like his mental state was just in shambles with the pressure of like feeling really bad because of Rudius and Roxy and not having the support of Zenoba, and B, seeing that his entire country turn against him pretty much, even though he was in power, kind of thing. Both of those combined really fucked with his head, which I would say probably was definitely what Hitogami was going for, right?
Yeah, I didn't really think of it that way, but I guess it's possible. So much of the series you could wonder how much influence Hitogami has had on people. It's kind of funny.
Right. Well, we know he manipulated the uprising, and we know he manipulated the Kingdom of Dragon King to helping him, basically, right? So, with those two things combined, both of them play more into the mental state issues, kind of, and that the uprising fucks with his head because, my country hates me, and even if I win this war, there's nowhere to, like, return to and have an actual good constituency at this point.
Yeah.
Right? And Kingdom of Dragon King kind of, like, while it gives him a little bit more support, it kind of allows him to, like, continue thinking in that way. Like, being in the Kingdom of the Dragon King, he's still compared to those other people. And, he really gets to understand the whole I'm a good for nothing kind of deal. As well as you could say it, like, places him into the position of being, having an uprising against him in the first place. Like, if he doesn't take it over in that way, maybe he wouldn't have been, like, there wouldn't be a rebellion against him in the first place kind of deal.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of it that way.
So, I don't know. It's kind of hard to determine, but either way, we understand that the end result is one that is favorable for Hitogami, and there were Hitogami apostles involved.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a fuck up.
Zenoba's just, he wasn't even that shocked, right? He's like, yep, well, all right, Pax killed himself. Or was he? He was
really
sad.
upset about
he was
it.
Sad,
he was really upset about it, at least.
I can't remember. It was a while ago.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, he was definitely really upset about it because, a lot of his reason for coming was because he wanted to protect Pax, right?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely not quite what he wanted to happen. And I mean, this is pretty much a total loss, right? Like, nobody dies that they particularly care about as people, but, like, it's a really bad situation. I mean, pretty much after this point, Orsted is like, this is probably normally where I would consider this, a pointless world, like, where I have almost no chance of winning kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Because he's used, like, more mana than normal to get to this point because of the fights with Rudius and that kind of stuff. And he has failed to, like, secure Laplace's location, which is a huge part of the war. And, so it's a big fuck up. But and you know, pretty much it's like I think this failure is pretty much because of Rudius's like existence. Like you can put blame on Orsted for like he probably should have emphasized like why Pax is so important and that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But that this Republic would allow us to know where Laplas is.
I think he definitely like apologizes and he's like, yeah, I should have probably told you, huh?
Right, yeah.
He's like, I fucked up, my bad, Chief.
Yeah, but it's like we get the understanding that this has not happened in any other loop because Rudius has not existed in any other loop to give Pax those mental issues that would lead to him committing suicide. So, not super something that was within his expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty shitty situation altogether. Pretty big loss. And at this point, like, you know, I kind of got the feeling like, well, fuck, how is Orsted going to win now? Kind of deal.
Because he had that go wrong.
Asura went perfectly, but Asura is not that big of a, like, deciding factor, right?
Yeah, that was just like, oh, this economy will be better, slightly more favorable.
Right,
for me.
it'll be more magic based. Like that'll help a little bit more than like military based. But like either way, they would have supported the war against Laplas, right? Like, not a big deal, particularly. And either way, they're not going to be like a deciding factor because they're not that powerful, all things considered, militarily. So, pretty big screw up. Pretty big screw up. So. Okay, so next section is Cliff is returning to Militian, and Rudius goes with him, all that kind of stuff. Rudius is going to the Latria home, you know, Zenith's family's side, who are high-class nobles in Militian.
Oh, yeah.
So
this
pretty big deal.
This is a whole ass thing. So much that happens in this fucking arc.
This is indeed a whole ass thing.
It's like there's amount of like politics and shit going on. Kind of crazy.
Oh yeah. I don't know, you want to talk about this a little bit, or should I keep going?
I mean, yeah, I can do it if you want.
You got it.
Alright, so we start here. Basically, I don't remember what initially, like, procs him to go there. Is it Orsted, right? Or does that have to do with Cliff?
I think it's Cliff graduating, pretty much, right?
Yeah, because it says future plans and Cliff's troubles, so... Oh yeah, Cliff wants to become the Pope, that's why, I think.
Yeah, Cliff wants to become the Pope. And this is about the time to do it because he just graduated not that long ago, I think.
And his grandfather is the current pope?
Yep, grandfather is the current pope.
Yeah.
But the problem is that he was like hesitating on it because, you know, he's married to Ellen Elise, and they have a kid at this point, I believe, or maybe, yeah, I'm pretty sure. They have a kid at this point, Clive. And it's like, well... magic races and other races like that are pretty discriminated against in Militian. No way you can become the Pope or even a good bishop if people know you have an elf wife, right?
Yeah.
So he pretty much has to leave her behind, and they're still married and stuff, but like, you know, can't come with him.
Yeah.
Luckily, the cursed tool, like technology, they've developed a lot. Elena Elise can go like a year or two without sex at this point now, which is like a huge improvement
compared to like what
like
a week,
yeah. 2 weeks, yeah, like so big deal.
Okay, so that's why he goes.
Yep.
And then they basically go. Rudius talks to the Pope's grandfather, and there's the opposing faction. I don't know if it's really opposing faction. Like on the surface, they act nice to each other, but neither of them really like each other.
Yeah, there's basically anti-demon race and like the other ones that are like whatever about the demon race. They're fine, you know.
Mm-hmm. I think the Pope's faction, they're the one who has control of the Miko currently, right? That's her name.
The Pope is I don't remember I'm pretty sure she's on the anti-demon race faction.
Which is with Rudius's aunt? I thought Rudius's aunt was with the Pope. I can't remember. There's so many things that happen in this chapter.
Yeah. Rudius's aunt is they protect the Miko. So, and for sure Rudius's grandmother, right, is anti-demon race. Like there's a lot of talk about that. So, I believe the way it works is the Pope is part of the like sympathize. I don't remember what they're called. The faction that basically like doesn't really care. They don't discriminate against the demon race at all, that kind of deal. and then the sympathetics or whatever you want to call them, and then they have majority of the control right now, and then the other section is the Demon Race Expulsion faction or whatever, and they have the Holy Guards, that kind of thing, the Holy Order, Temple Knights, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
I think those are two separate things.
And
they
so
have
many
the
factions,
Miko.
like I said, it's hard to keep them all straight, so.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure they are the ones in control of the Miko, because...
Yeah, the Holy Temple Knights definitely are, because she has like the 10 guards or whatever, and they're her fan club, like she's an idol or some shit, so.
Yeah. Well, I also remember, if you remember when Eris prevented Miko from getting assassinated the first time, there's like some talk about like, was it really good to have her, was it really good for her to stop that if it would have technically benefited Cliff and the Pope, you know?
Yeah.
That kind of deal, because, technically an enemy of the Pope, but, yeah, I want to look up the name of the faction now, but, one of the parts that, there's two major plot lines with this that get tied together is, Cliff trying to get, like, into the, upper bishop ranks and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, the other plot line of, Rudius bring Zenith and Aisha to visit, the Latria residence, which is, his grandmother and all that, because they're upper class.
Who's a goddamn bitch.
Who is an absolute bitch. I mean, we know she was the one that raised Norn and Aisha when they were really young, pretty much, while Paul is off searching and all that kind of stuff. So, and there's a lot of talk about her being really strict, like really firm Millis believer. So, Rudius is kind of like, I hope she doesn't hate me that much because I have like 3 wives. Probably won't bring that part up. Also, one of my wives is a magic race. Probably don't bring that part up considering she's part of the demon.
Also, one of my wives is a elf. Don't bring that up.
Yeah, so not a real good look, honestly. But and then also just like, well, what is she like? What her intentions with Zenith and all that kind of stuff. What she wants to happen. Basically, Rudius gets there and she's just kind of condescending the whole time a little bit. Like, the thing that sucks about all these fucking aristocrats, especially
Aisha's there with him too.
Yep, Aisha's there with him too. Which she treats Aisha terribly because she's like a mistress, child kind of thing.
They lived with her like really briefly before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where she likes Norn a lot, even though Norn is a fuck up compared to Aisha in terms of like training and stuff. So, I mean, the thing that sucks about the aristocrats in this area in Militian is that they don't really understand military factors very much, right? Like, Rudius is like, oh, I'm the right hand of the dragon god, which, if you hear that, you should think, oh, the dragon god, like, pretty much the most powerful person on the entire planet at the current moment. Like, the militaristic might of, like, all of this entire continent, easily, right? Like, at that point, you should go, oh, his rank is higher than me. But instead, they're like, well, I'm a high noble of Ashura, which doesn't even have that much military might in the first place. Like,
kind of a big deal, but not really.
Not even really. I mean, like, none of these countries really compare to anyone on the 7 world powers, except when they hire them as mercenaries occasionally, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah, they just don't have like the perspective of who is important. Like, it talks later when you get into his grandmother's POV, which, what is her name again? I forget. Is it
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. But it's like, when you get to her POV, she kind of like, he says, oh, I'm the right hand of Orsted. And she's like, I don't know what that means, but that sounds impressive, I guess. And it's like, dude, it's more than that.
Sorry for you, or glad that happened.
Yeah, like, Claire is her name.
Okay, yeah.
So,
and then...
basically... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so then she's like, okay, well, we're taking Zenith back, which is basically that's most of what happens. The rest of the conversation isn't super important, but she, like, makes fun of Aisha, and then Rudius is like, nope, Aisha can sit down, shut up.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then say, yeah, we're gonna take Zenith back because she can still make children, and she's our daughter, so we're gonna have her make a child. And Rudius gets fucking omega pissed, which rightfully so.
Yeah, because they basically gonna marry her off, kind of deal.
When she's an invalid, which is like really fucked up. So
yeah.
So then he beats up a bunch of the guards, fucking storms out of there, goes crazy. And they go back to their inn for a while.
Yeah, completely loses temper, takes her back, all that kind of stuff. I mean, so, and the thing is, we learn at the end of this whole section that it's like, she had heard about from, like, rumors and books and stuff like that, for, cursed people like this, when she had heard one such story, where it was cured through repeated sexual encounters, right? That kind of thing. Which, completely not the whole story, just a poorly played game of telephone, right? Where it's like, oh, the person who she's like heard about from an elf village was actually Ellie Elise. She wasn't cured through having a lot of sex. Her condition was that she had to have sex or die. Yeah. Kind of thing. So she doesn't understand the situation. So she thinks that's the only way to cure her, possibly. Like, that's the only lead. And she's like, if it would cure her, it's probably worth it. Which I maybe would disagree with, but
slight problem.
Yeah. Especially because it like assumes that Zenith is like a fucking zombie right now, whereas it's like, she still thinks through things and understands things. She just can't communicate that well, but she can communicate emotionally and all that kind of stuff. I mean, she's way better off than she is like dead or something. Like, she's like basically a functioning member of the family. But Claire doesn't really particularly understand that. So, it's a tough situation. I mean, they have a lot of this kind of deal where it's trying to figure out what to do, all this kind of stuff. And Rudius gets involved with the Miko when he takes Cliff to the Pope and all that kind of stuff, because the Miko hangs out in that same area. And, they have a conversation, and Miko's like, oh my god, you're married to Eris, and Eris is like my favorite person ever because she saved my life, and she's so cool and strong, blah, 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 kind of stuff. But she's got that whole squad of guards who are always kind of suspicious of Rudius a little bit.
The fan club.
That kind of stuff.
It's like the Norn fan club version 2.
Yeah, pretty much. Version 2.0. She's got the ability to like see through other people's memories and shit like that. So pretty important. Pretty big deal. And so, he kind of wants to be able to use her power for Zenith maybe and see what's up there, if that'll like help them cure her at all or whatever. Is there some other reason he's tied into the Miko I'm forgetting? I want to say there is.
So you have the Eris thing.
Right, yep. You have the Eris thing that he wants to use her power for Zenith kind of stuff.
Yeah. Was there anything else? Well, she just wanted to talk to Eris. That was like the main thing. She's like, oh, I want to thank her. And he's like, well, I'm married to her, so you can totally do that if you help me.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I don't think it was anything more than that, really. Yeah,
I guess it's just kind of trying to convince her of that and like make good face and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, then what happens is chapter 5, while Rudius is gone, like out with Cliff and then talking with the Miko, what happens is Ginger and is Zenoba there guarding? No, I don't think so.
No, Zenoba didn't even go. He wasn't there at all.
Yeah. So Ginger is there.
Yeah,
though, right?
Yeah. It's like
there's Ginger,
Aisha,
yep,
and Gisu,
and then was Zenith, and Gisu's not like hanging out with them, but Gisu is like in town.
I thought he was there at the house.
He comes to the house. So what happens is, like, while Rudius is out, and they're all like watching over Aisha or watching over Zenith because they're afraid that like Latria House kidnappers will come in and like try to kill them and then take Zenith back, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is Gisu comes over, happens to visit, and he says, hey, it would be good to like take her out for a while, that kind of thing, like have her walk around, all that kind of stuff. I want to talk to her, blah blah blah. And being stupid, they let him do that.
Yeah.
And basically when it's like time to bring her back, the story goes that Gisu is basically told by a Latria House family member, hey, yeah, just drop her off here. We have good relations. Obviously, it's their daughter, that kind of stuff. Just drop her off here. Rudius will come get her. And he's like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
Not a trap at all.
Yeah, not a trap at all. Well, because he doesn't know about the fighting, right, or anything like that. He just knows, like, the deal. Does that. Sure enough, Latria House now has possession of her. Rudius comes back. Yeah, Gisu really sure was supposed to bring her back by now.
Fuck our missed curfew.
Yeah. And so, Rudius starts to get he's like, that's awful suspicious activity, Gisu. And, goes to the bar, finds Gisu, threatens him at fucking point blank with magic, is like, okay, start talking or you die, right? Like,
yeah, he's not fucking around. This is his mother, man.
Yeah.
Even if it is Gisu.
They detail very intricately how it's like the whirring of like the fucking rock cannon, right? Is just like wee, like
it's like a power drill.
Yeah, like fucking power drill to his face, basically, right? Like, okay, go ahead, talk. Because he kind of suspects him of being Hitogami's apostle at this point, right? After that has happened, he's like, that was fucking some real suspicious bullshit going on right there. And Gisu's like, oh no, please, I didn't understand the situation, blah, blah, blah. It's all pretty believable. It's a little bit suspicious still. Yeah. And he's still suspicious of him, but it ultimately believable. And so, but we gain the information. Latria House definitely has Zenith. They deny it outright. They're like, no, what are you going to do? Search the whole place? You can't search the whole place. And Rudius is like, I could just kill all of you, and it would mean nothing to me. Except that it would maybe tangentially fuck over Cliff for having known me. Which is pretty much the only reason he doesn't want to do it, right? I mean,
yeah.
But he could certainly kill them all and look through the whole place, right? All the while, Claire is trying to find suitors for Zenith, which is a little bit hard, considering she's an invalid person.
It's so fucked up. I hate her.
Yeah, fucking idiot. I mean, really, the whole theme of this is that communication is important. Like, Claire's big fault isn't that her intentions are wrong necessarily. Like, she just wants to cure her daughter by any means necessary and take care of her, that kind of stuff, as best as she can.
But if she had asked Rudius, he'd be like, yeah, I know that doesn't work, so.
Yeah, instead of just being a fucking spoiled idiot who only thinks of herself and doesn't communicate with anyone, she could have said, well, I want to do this because this. And Rudius would go, yeah, unfortunately, I know that person. She's not cured at all, and that's actually a condition.
Yeah.
And she would have been, oh, no need for this then. But
oh, my bad. Oops.
Fucking stupid noble people are morons. So
it's just like real life.
Yeah, it's very believable. It's not bad writing or anything. It's good writing, in fact. To have like characters with different motivations that lead to like relatively bad things, but not because they're stupid, bad, evil people, just because they have different perspectives. I mean, basically what it turns into is they can't like really figure out what to do about it. And so Rudius is like, I could kidnap the Miko. And if I kidnap the Miko, I could use her as bargaining chip for the Latria household and figure out what's all going on here. But I don't really want to do that. Well, the Latria household and the anti-demon faction have already not liked him very much. And Rudius has been seeing the Miko for a lot of time. And they basically use it as an excuse to get rid of Rudius. They're like, you were planning to do that, surely. And so all the Temple Knights that are in the squad protecting the Miko, they all capture him in a king-class barrier.
Oh yeah, this fight's pretty sick, actually. This is cool.
This is probably my favorite fight of the whole series, I can't lie.
There's so much going on.
It's really
they got the anti-Rudius measures passed down through the legends.
Yeah, I mean, they've specifically developed all their shit to deal with Rudius because they know he's really strong. They put him in a king class barrier and they give him like a fake trial, pretty much, which is like, no, he's totally guilty of it. Fuck him. Which Rudius is like the whole time he's like, this is funny. Like he doesn't take it seriously at all for the most part. We feel a little bit of tension because we're not sure.
Yeah, what they can do
about it necessarily.
And all that,
yeah. And we know he's trapped in the king class barrier, which we've seen previously he couldn't get out before. I mean, back in Shirone, back in volume 5 or 6 or so, king class barrier by Pax, he couldn't get out. He was completely useless. But at this point, like, I like the interrogation scene because it's pretty funny. Like, the bits with like It's like, does anyone object? I. And it's like Rudius saying it. Like, it's like, not you. Like, he just tries
Dude,
to
it's a rigged ass court system. It sucks dick.
Yeah, because it's fucking religious anti-demon faction court system kind of deal, where it's just the 10 of them deciding that he's guilty. And so they're like, okay, we're not going to kill you. We're just going to cut off both your arms, so you can't like kill anyone or have any fighting power. You know, relatively lenient sentence. Normally they would just kill you. Wow. Which he's like, you know, could, you know, not the biggest deal. Orsted could totally grow back my arms and stuff because he knows the chance for that level of healing magic. But
what level?
Not exactly
what level
something...
is Lim growing back healing magic? Is that king level? I don't even know.
I want to say it's king, but it's king or higher. It might, yeah, I think it's king or higher. But I don't know. It doesn't particularly matter. But Rudius is like, all right. I just wanted to like see if there was any way to like talk with you reasonably, because he doesn't want to fight.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of them's his aunt, so
yeah, one of them is his aunt, who he's on relatively good terms with. She's helped him out before.
She did help him
when they were crossing the border with Ruijerd, right? She's a good person overall. Just she's doing this because she's ordered to basically by the upper echelon of the Demon Expulsion faction, right? So, because Rudius is a threat to them, etc., etc. So Rudius says, okay, now that you've decided this is what you're going to do, I have to step in physically here. And he uses a spell countermeasure to take down the King Class Bear. We're like, oh shit. It worked on him before. It ain't going to work this time. Fuck you.
And he tries to Quagmire him, but they have like an anti-Quagmire measure or something, right?
Yes. So basically the whole fight starts out. And so we're looking at the sides here. We got Rudius and his Mach 2, so the real basic magic armor, right? Like roughly Emperor class magician, right? Versus this whole team of 10. Is it 10 plus Teresa, or is it 10 including her? I don't remember. Either way, it doesn't really matter. She's not noteworthy as a warrior. She's like intermediate class swordsman at best.
Yeah.
But she's a really, really good commander and has worked out a lot of tactics with all of them. And the rest of them are advanced or Saint class swordsmen. There's like 1 or 2 Saint class, I think, and the rest are advanced. Which, as we know, right, like advanced class in numbers actually stacks up pretty exponentially, right? I mean, stuff that is difficult to do on your own as an Emperor or King class, you can do with like 10 advanced class dudes, right? Like, just as like adventuring. They took down the Manatite Hydra or whatever with Rudius, who's like King or Emperor class again. And like 5 advanced class swordsmen. Paul's advanced class, he's really strong. And all the rest of them, Talhand, Ellen Elise, all that kind of stuff, they're basically advanced class. They're not Saint or anything like that.
Strong boys.
So, you know, as a party, this fight more than any other really puts down that idea of like, wow, the cooperation and like team focus multiplies power exponentially, pretty much. Like, it makes a way bigger difference than you would think.
Yeah,
and
I mean, of course.
Yeah, I mean, because, well, there's a tendency in series, in anime, where it's like, you know, there's all kinds of shit of like the one strong dude souling a bunch of other slightly less strong dudes, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. Like, definitely in other isekais, there's all kinds of like, one guy takes out a whole army type shit. But in this, it's like, he has legitimate trouble because they are so coordinated, and because that's not really how it works, right? I've actually got like a whole video planned out about why I like this fight so much, so I won't say particularly everything I think about it. A rare
Pokecult insider, no way.
I've had this video written since before winter break, but I've made like way too many Mushoku Tensei videos in a row, so I was like, okay, I'll just like let it simmer for a while I work on other stuff. But also, I thought I took the notes for the video on my Google Docs, but I actually wrote it on one of my like school papers for class, and it was in my dorm all break that I didn't have access to, so I couldn't like look at what I had written or anything. So probably make the video sometime soonish after I finish a couple things I'm working on. But yeah, pretty much this is my favorite fight in the whole series, I would say.
One thing I could relate this to in a sense is actually D&D. because no matter how strong of an enemy you're fighting, there's like a concept called action economy, essentially, right? Where if you have people that are acting more than they are, like in a single round, eventually they're going to get overwhelmed. It doesn't matter. Like you'll win in a long-term fight if you have more numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because like, even though there are staggering power differences in this world, it's not, Sword Art Online, where Kirito can get attacked by 7 guys attacking him at full force, and they, his numbers are too high, they physically can't do enough damage to outbeat his auto regen skill, just for one random example, haha.
I'm just stronger, you cannot hurt me.
Yeah. And like, that's how a lot of fights in a lot of isekai go, and action series in general, or shonen, that kind of stuff. It's all about the power level numbers. But this series, like, while it definitely has some of that, like, it's like the first Orsted fight is a good example where it's like, individually, even Ruijerd, none of them are strong enough to beat Orsted at all. Like, even put a dent on him. So it doesn't matter that if they all attack him at once. Like, his numbers are too high. But there's a lot of fights like this that debunk that concept a little bit more. So yeah, like, there's just so much back and forth in this fight that is really good. I mean, the deal is just, they've all practiced for fighting against Rudius individually. Like,
the anti-Rudius task force.
Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah. So like, okay, he's an Emperor class magician. He knows how to he really likes using Quagmire and Earth-based spells. Whenever he uses Quagmire, we're going to use Sandstorm and whatever other stuff to undo the Quagmire, pretty much. Because we have, like, some magicians, some swordsmen.
Yeah.
And all of them are also good at, like, barrier magic, which is pretty effective, even at, like, an intermediate level. Barrier magic can cancel out a lot of magic. But, in a battle of attrition, it wouldn't quite necessarily work, because Rudius would just have more mana and outpower them. But only because he's so exceptional, So they got that. They've got a lot of, like, back and forth of timings of, like, okay, if we have these 2 guys with the barrier here, protect the spell, and then we buy time for this guy to do this attack, kind of thing. Like, they're, like you said, it's all about the action economy or whatever, where it's like, they're using that they can contain his actions with the actions of, like, 3 or 4 people, and then use the rest to do some damage, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so it turns into a protracted struggle, especially because Rudius is like, he doesn't particularly want to kill them, right?
That's kind of the main thing that made the fight harder for him, because I think if you wanted to kill him, you probably just could have done it, like, right away.
Right, yeah. But even then, it would still be hard, but it's not something he particularly wants to do. He doesn't really want to kill, and it would kind of have a bad political effect for him and Cliff and that kind of stuff. Like, it wouldn't really help prove his innocence for not wanting to kidnap the Miko or other stuff if he kills the whole guard instead of just, like, knocking them out, right? Yeah. It would look bad politically. So, a lot of stuff happens, and it's back and forth struggle. Rudius is like, I might lose at this point if it keeps going like this, but I could probably win, but it's going to take a while and be difficult. And so he says, well, luckily we got the clutch factor for situations just like this, right? And he creates a big fog instead of a Quagmire, and it takes them a little bit longer.
Call in the fucking Gundam.
Yeah, and they figured out the best way to transport this fucking magic armor Maku 1, the big OG that he used to fight Orsted. Because, normally it's like, oh, I have to go all the way back to the fucking house to grab that shit, or wherever I'm keeping it. Now they've made teleportation scrolls, basically, to summon the shit. And he makes a big fog, using the confusion, summons it, equips it, and they're like, wait, what the fuck is this? And he wipes the shit out of them. I mean, because he's got physical strength on the level of the 7 world powers at this point now. They've spent all their time preparing for, like, he's got, like, solid sword skills and physique, but mostly the magic is the threat. He can't overpower them physically.
Yeah.
But now he's in a form where he can overpower them physically in terms of speed and strength. And so it goes from a really even fight in a lot of ways to a complete fucking massacre.
Yeah, he fucking destroys them.
I mean, the fog is out. They're having difficulties shooing away the fog because it's not something he uses particularly often, and it doesn't, like, inherently get him a tactical advantage when he wants to, like, AoE people and stuff like that. Like, it would normally be worse for him, because in a situation like that where there's, like, fog of war type of deal, like, the physical strength stuff becomes a lot better than like magic because it gives you opportunity to get close to them in the confusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it works for him because now he's stronger than them, and so we get this from like POV of like Teresa, where she's like, "Wait, what's happening? Like, where is it coming from?" And like just knocking everyone out like instantly, like almost killing them, not quite killing them, but like just knocking them out, like super hardcore. Where Reese is like, "I don't think that killed him. He'll probably be fine." So he wins the fight that way. They're all knocked out, and he goes, "Man, what the fuck do I do at this point?" And he says, "You know what? Fuck it. I will kidnap the Miko. Like, she'll have to be a bargaining chip now that it's come to this." Partially because the Miko kind of is like okay with the plan. Like she kind of spurs him to do it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how that section ends. I mean, I really love just like the Teresa POV where she's like, "What the fuck? This is terrifying." As well as like when the fight is like everyone's knocked out and Rudis is like, "Ah, it's a massacre!" Like,
yeah, and
yeah,
we learned that Rudy's doing is actually bad because it's essentially he lost by doing that by summoning the mech. Because
in the way,
yeah, like in the grand scheme of things, because that was the whole point of that is that Gisu wanted him to summon the mech so they could see it and provide countermeasure for it.
Yeah, that is something Gisu says. I don't know how much that makes sense. I guess he hasn't seen the magic armor because he used it in the fight.
Like he'd only heard about it and like, oh, we need to see it so we can like understand what it does and stuff.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. I don't know. I find it.
I don't know if it makes total sense, but yeah, that's just like a reasoning, I guess.
Yeah. If anything, it just gives them a better idea of how to develop counterattack against it, right? Which, I don't know if they really capitalize on that super much, other than just like the mana time limit.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how far it goes, but it is a thing that happens, so that's why I brought it up.
Right. Yeah, true. I also, like, it feels really good. There's not very many fights where Rudius gets to go all out.
Yeah.
And it feels really good seeing one where it's like, I mean, I think even he says it himself where it's like, it feels good to go out every once in a while kind of deal, right? Like,
stretch my bones.
Yeah, so it's like, fuck yeah, man. That shit got me. I was so hyped reading that. I was like, oh my god, that was so sick.
That was a highlight. Because like up till then, I was like, okay, this is kind of subterfuge, kind of slow paced, and then you get this crazy fight where shit hits the fan.
Mm-hmm. It's like a best of both worlds for the cool kinds of fights of Mushoku Tensei, where it's like really tactical battle using the world's like well-defined magic system and battle tactics and shit like that, and then like turning into a one-sided massacre once like the win condition has been presented kind of deal. Mm-hmm. I cannot wait for in 10 years when that gets animated.
10 years, yeah.
I mean, that would be
30 going, I remember when I read this.
Oh, peak fiction.
Raw Kino swag.
Back in my day, you had to imagine what the mecha armor looked like.
Rudius.
Yeah. Oh, man. So, yeah, I mean, I just love that fight so much.
It's cool.
There's so much good to talk about it. But
and that's why you're going to make a video on it.
Yeah. Kidnaps Lamiko, and he's basically like, okay, I break into like the upper echelons of the church Pope place. I force them to have an emergency meeting pretty much. And I say, here's my bargaining chip. Let's figure this situation out. And she pretty much does that, kidnaps the Miko. The Miko, she's cooperating with this because she knows his intentions at this point.
Oh, yeah. She's a mind reader.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was thinking of the Hollow Notes song, the Man Eater. Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, a little too highbrow.
So, yeah, sorry. Not a Hollow Notes enthusiast. Best I got is you're out of touch.
I was going to say, they made that song. It's a banger.
Yeah. True. So, yeah, she leads him to the inner places of the church. And you've got the Pope. You got Cliff is there, who's a bishop of some kind at this point. And you've got, like, the head of the military faction. And you got the head of the anti-demon expulsion faction, right? Yep. The Cardinal, I think he is. And
the Cardinal.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just thought of like some code name for like a bird or something.
that reminds me. Actually, I was just in class, and in the class in this one building, in this classroom, there's a regular clock on the wall, and the clock, instead of like numbers
has birds
on each of the things, it has birds.
What the hell?
And the whole time, our professor was like, "Yeah, so we've got like." He's like, oh, we've got like until like a cardinal to like talk about this probably. Like, he's just like, yeah. Like, okay, it's o'clock. Got it. It was pretty stupid. So he gets into there and he starts negotiating, and they've got what did I just say the lady's name was? His grandmother. I already forgot.
It started with an E.
Carol. I think the grandfather is Carlisle, right?
I thought it was like, yeah, I don't know. Man, rough.
Oh my god, what is her name? Hold on, we're getting there. Basically, they're there too, his grandparents, and there's a whole big deal of Claire, that was her name. Jesus, what? I mean, that's just a.
Why did I say name. E? What is wrong? What's wrong with both of us? Our brains aren't working. Dude, there's too much going on. Give me a break.
I thought you said C. I knew it was.
Did I? I thought I said E. I don't even know anymore. Whatever.
I mean, the names Carlisle and Claire. How am I ever supposed to remember that, dude?
Oh, like, you know. Claire.
Yeah. I mean, fitting name for like nobility and like religious-ish type. Like, gives you those vibes, right?
Yeah.
But like, not rememberable because of it. So, basically gets in a negotiation with all of them. He says, you know, I really tried to talk this out. I really did. Like, he's just kind of like, me, the right hand of the dragon god Orsted, who could destroy this entire country if he so felt. You know, I came with nothing but good intentions, and yet
I could kill all of you. Fuck you.
And yet here, time and time again, I have been betrayed. Like, I mean, he just talks with it like, he's got the upper hand and he knows it. And even if he's not like the most confident in it, like he's like, oh god, I hope this is getting through right. Like, it's just like yeah, he sure does get to talk shit on them where he's done nothing wrong, continually been accused and interrogated wrongly, and betrayed by the Latreia household.
Our man never has it easy. It's a rough life out there.
Yeah. and here Claire and Carlisle like realize, oh, the dragon god is kind of important. Because, you know, the military guy and all them, the Pope and all them are like, yeah, yeah, we really don't want to upset the dragon god. That would be really bad.
It's always really funny whenever Rudius flexes his fucking status. It's like,
yeah,
do you know
right?
who I work for?
Like, oh, so you are suicidal. Got it. Yeah, I enjoy that kind of stuff. Partially because it's like, it's so earned at this point, yeah, right? Like,
that's the
as a shorthand for how powerful he is.
The sheep and fox clothing technique.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, they're all like, yeah, you know what? What's the whole issue here? Like, what happened? He's like, well, I brought Zenith, and the Latreia house kidnapped her, and tried to marry her off, even though she's an invalid, and all this kind of stuff. And then I got interrogated by the Temple Knights, and they tried to execute me, so I beat the shit out of all of them. And I will beat the shit out of all of you, too, if we don't figure this out. He's like, yeah, all that kind of stuff. And they're like, yeah, that is pretty fucked up. And so they hear both sides of the story, that kind of thing. And they're like, wow, that was... Because Claire won't explain why she did it. She just explains what she did, right? And, because she's so prideful and all that kind of stuff. And this whole time, Rudius is, like, fuming at her. Like, he's like, there's no justification for this, right? Which, you know, fair for him to think that. I mean, she's terrible.
Based on all the thing that happens, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And so, she pretty much is like, yeah, I did all that. And so all the bishops and the Pope and all them are like, okay, sentence her. We're going to put her in prison for, what was it, like 20, 30, 40 years or something?
Forever.
Like, basically prison till she dies, because she's fucking old. She's like 60-something. And Carlisle is like, damn, that sucks, but you did that to yourself, bro. It's weird. He doesn't really stick up for her particularly. You get some kind of sense that's because of his position also, and he feels bad about it, but like he can't, like, he knows anything he would do would just make it worse at this point. Because Carlisle's a good guy. And he's not as stuck up as Claire or anything like that. I mean, he hasn't even met Rudius yet. Like, this is his first time meeting Rudius. And so they're going to sentence her off. And what happens is Zenith ends up making a big deal of it and gets upset at Rudius.
Yeah, she slaps him, I think.
Yeah, she slaps the fuck out of him.
It's like, what?
Which, yeah. All this kind of deal. And so the Miko has to step in, kind of. And we get the perspective on what happens in the whole situation. Basically, what happened with Claire, like I explained earlier, she thought that was the only way to cure Zenith, etc. So that's why she did all that. And, they kind of get a hint at this is why it happened because, they ask her, like, well, do you feel bad? She's like, no, I did what was right, that kind of thing. And that makes Rudius really fucking mad because he doesn't understand at the time.
Yeah.
But then coming back to it, Rudius is like, oh, she was legitimately just misinformed, right? You can't, like, he's like, not actually that bad of a thing to do if that's legitimately what you thought it took to cure her, right? And if you thought she was, like, as bad mentally as, like, completely invalid, can't do anything, can't think kind of deal, like, it would be maybe a justifiable trade-off at that point, if it was true. But, A, that's not the case, and B, it's not true. And, so Rudius is like, oh, yeah, I know about that. I know the person they're talking about. That's not what happened. And she's like, oh, everything I did was in vain. Oops. To which point Rudius is like, okay, never mind. I don't want to press charge or anything. I understand now what kind of happened.
Yep.
And Claire is forced to kind of change her views about it and understand, oh, this is because I didn't communicate kind of thing. And it's because I was stuck up and thought I knew everything, all that kind of deal. And it all ends pretty happy, right? I mean, the whole situation is resolved. No one has to go to jail for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and then we get the thing with the Miko and Zenith where we find out that she has pretty much been talking the whole time. It's just that no one can hear her.
Yeah, except for Lara, which
the
is
baby.
Him and Roxy's daughter. Because she, she's part of the Miko tribe. Unlike Roxy, they find out this way that she can communicate telepathically like the rest of the Miggards. So her and Zenith have been talking that way. And we understand this greater sense of emotional intelligence. She doesn't get all the details necessarily of what's happening, but she understands the important parts of like what people are going through. So she is basically a full-fledged person still. Like, I mean, she's doing fine altogether. She can't communicate or anything as well as she wishes she could, but like she's doing good. And so they're all really happy to learn that and stuff. So it's quite
wholesome.
Nice, quite nice.
Like mm-hmm. Zenith, it's been so the last time we heard her talk was like 17
Before
volumes ago. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, last time more than 17. I mean, it'd be what, 2?
Yeah, it'd be right before he got
something?
sent off to the
the
manor of hell.
Yeah, with Eris. Yeah. So this whole situation ends pretty well. And Rudius is like, yeah, okay, make ties with me and the Dragon God, because you really tried to fuck us over. And they're like, yeah, this would be a great way for us to apologize and gain your support kind of stuff. Yeah. So everyone's happy. But, I mean, coming back, Rudius is like, Gisu still did act pretty weirdly. Something's probably up there. I should ask him. And he gets back to where they're all staying, and Gisu has left a note, and he's like, you probably figured it out by now. I'm an apostle of Hitogami. And I did this and this, ultimately, I think that while I understand your perspective, I think ultimately Hitogami has helped out so much that you're a little bit ungrateful, that kind of deal. And he says, but maybe you can't understand for someone like me who, he has literally zero value in combat of any kind. And there's nothing he can do about that. Like, he would probably be dead without Hitogami. I love
how well written that letter is because you're like, man, fuck Gisu. But at the same time, you're like, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, even though Hitogami tricked me into destroying my whole village, right?
I would be nothing without him.
Yeah, he would be dead. I mean, he's a magic race that, can live in the central continents and thrives. Like, he blows all his money on gambling and shit, but like that's what he wants to do with it, and he always gets picked back up.
Minor setback.
Like the whole reason it starts to make sense now how he's so good at everything outside of combat. Like, he can cook, he can write maps, he can trade perfectly, he's a merchant, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, because he's like the perfect Hitogami apostle in that way. Like, just every kind of, like, contact or communications or information spreading, all that kind of stuff, any of that Hitogami could ever need, Gizu is the perfect apostle for that. So, we realize this is, like, the final, like, missing piece.
Yeah.
And
it makes so much sense. Like, it's...
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that he would be overlooked because ultimately he's not an important person, right? But it makes so much sense just because he's that perfect... Like, Hitogami can get a lot of strength, but the real difficult part is, like, organizing armies, intelligence warfare, all that kind of stuff. And Gisu is intelligence warfare incarnated, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's just perfect at everything outside of it. So, it's kind of the final piece. So really, really good ending of the volume, and kind of leads us to our final, like, section, which is leading up to whatever the fuck Gisu is going to do to confront the final fight. Because Gisu basically is like, we're coming for you, and I'm going to kill you, kind of thing. So you better get your army ready, because I'll be getting mine. And so we're leading to our final
pretty
showdown.
Raw. Really fucking good.
Pretty raw. Pretty goddamn raw. Yeah, I mean, it's so sick. He reports it back to Orsted. Hey, all, we got off topic on this exact moment because Justin's fire alarm went off, and we had to resync the podcast and dip for like 5 minutes and everything. So we're resuming time as of right now. All right, cool. Good enough. Okay, back on the podcast now that the fire alarm is
Dude,
over.
it was so heat burning down my damn building.
Yeah, what the fuck? That's something.
Tough.
That is tough.
Hey.
Oh, boy. So, what do we got here? Volume 22. He goes to Atofe. Why does he go and challenge Atofe and beat her again?
He just wants her on her side. I think Orsted tells her to recruit her. Tells him to recruit her.
They're just trying to stop Hitogami from recruiting as many people as possible, right? Yeah. So that would be why. Let's see. So there's that happens. Has another kid. It's the second kid from Sylphie, right? So it's what's her name? Is it Christina?
Christina.
Christina.
Yeah. I don't know. Like his naming all the.
It's Sieghart. It's Sieghart.
Yeah, because he's the one he brings to Perugius because he's like, I gotta make sure it's not Lapras.
Yeah, because he has the Lapras factor because he has green hair, which makes sense considering both Sylphie and Rudius had the Lapras factor.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Rudius is like, if my son is Lapras, I'll have to fight you. I won't let you kill him or whatever. So.
Yeah. I can't lie. I don't think I would agree with that, but I think if I had a kid and it had, like, what does becoming Lapras even mean? Does he take over their personality? Presumably so, right? Like,
well, I think what he said would be like, oh, well, I'll watch over them, and if they do anything bad, then I'll take responsibility or something, so.
Right.
I don't know if they're innately bad or how it works. I think it's just that they have a lot of magic power.
Well, but they become Lapras. I'm saying, like, if you actually are Lapras, not if you have the Lapras factor.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's like you get reincarnated as him. Like, you at that point, you're not your own person. Like, it's not his kid, and it's Lapras. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. If I had a kid and he was Lapras, I would let them kill my kid. Like, that's what I'm saying.
You heard it here first, folks.
I mean, because they don't have their own personality. It's Lapras, right? Like,
yeah, that's a fair point. It's not really your kid at that point.
Yeah, and like, also like when if it's like a newly born child, like it would suck a lot and be pretty traumatic. But like balancing that with like the weight of the world, I think I would probably be able to do it. Now, if it was like I only figured out they were Lapras when they were like fucking 15 or 20 or something, then we would have a different story on our hands, right? But yeah. So all that happens, it's not Lapras, it's Sieghart. He's the biggest Chad in the whole fucking series. No. Okay. And then we get more stuff with Nanahoshi. We get the final Nanahoshi stuff, right?
We do. Where she they try to do the actual like transfer to send her
Yep.
back to Japan or somewhere on Earth. Not really Japan.
Yeah, hopefully somewhere. They're hoping for somewhere with land, right? Yeah. So, you know, she hangs out at Reese's place too the night before, as kind of final like going away party type thing in case it does work. Reese accidentally lets out the detail that he was the NEET who got hit by the truck and shit.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What the fuck? You were so cool. Like you were so lame, and now you're so cool here. What the fuck?"
You were so gross before. He's like, "Oh."
He's like, "Yeah,
Yeah, that was me."
pretty funny." But yeah, good time. They go to do the summoning. Perugius and Rudius are both helping Nanahoshi. Stops working during the middle of it. You know, Perugius is like, "What are you doing? Why'd you stop supplying magic?" He's like, "Dude, I was supplying magic the whole time. It just stopped working," kind of thing. Ends up not working. She can't go back. And, you know, at this point, we're like worried, like, hopefully she does not do something drastic, right? Because we know in the diary timeline, she probably killed herself when she failed in the end, right?
Yeah, I think that's like direct.
That is what's implied, at least.
Pretty much.
But, you know, in this timeline, she's like, you know, I'm very upset, but, you know, Rudius told her, in the end, it seems like you didn't return, like it didn't work. So she's like prepared for this not to work kind of thing. So she's like, I'm fine. It sucks, but I'm fine. And the conclusion she comes to is, you know, why were we summoned in the first place? She ends up thinking it has something to do with Hitogami and Orsted's battle, probably. Just given the time frame that they're summoned in and how instrumental Rudius and them have been in the whole deal. So she's like, and also, you know, the third person that was almost 100% summoned, her friend that was at her with the, what do you call it? Intersection, right?
Yeah.
I forget his name, but he's mentioned in the end. We have not seen him yet. And, you know, it makes sense that it would take a while given that you and I were summoned like 10 years apart, right? It might take even longer, that kind of deal. So she's like, basically, it looks like, I think the only thing, she's like, I think the theory is perfect, just it won't work until we finish whatever we're meant to be summoned here for.
Yeah.
Kind of deal. So she's like, we gotta wait till what's his name is summoned and found, and then we'll see what we can do from there.
I forgot his name.
Yeah, I can look it up really fast, but so she's like, you know what? I'm going to have one of Previous' servants just put me to sleep for long periods of time at a shot, and wait to see what happens, kind of deal. I talked about this in the Nanahoshi video, but I really like it because like Perugius and Rudius both think that it's just something wrong with the magic circle theory, and they don't really buy into this because it is a little bit contrived, right? Like, they don't really buy into it. Like, Perugius is like, she's stupid and naive. I'm going to finish the circle while she's asleep. That kind of thing.
Yep.
I really like that dichotomy of, like, different things. But, you know, at the same time, they don't particularly, like, they try to convince her a little bit, but it's like, you know, it's not a Hoshi. She'll do what she wants, kind of deal.
She's a force of nature on her own.
Shinohara Akito. That's his name.
Yeah.
Akito.
Basically, they're like, oh, we gotta wait, because he's gonna come in the future.
Right, yeah.
And then he'll be the key to teleporting me back, so they put her in cryogenic slumber.
Yep. Which, in the redundancy chapters, we find out she wakes up for one day every month, just, like, to see what's up. And, all those chapters are pretty much just about, like, random stuff. There's a big focus on, like, she wakes up once every month and she's like, I am very hungry. And it really just brings her, like, good food to eat.
I am insatiable.
They're all just fun chapters and shit. It's pretty cool.
Nice. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. Not a lot happens with it, but... So that happens. Nanahoshi is now asleep. She's a non-factor for the rest of the story, pretty much. Until maybe a sequel, ? But for now, she's not in the story anymore.
Yeah, that's the last time we see her in the main story.
Yep. So now we've got, we've been gathering forces. Big battle is drawing near. I mean...
But there's one man we need. Ryujerd
Yeah?
Spearda.
Oh yeah, Ryujerd's pretty good.
Our goat.
Yeah. So how does this section start?
So I'm fairly certain this isn't even an Orsted thing. It's just like Rudius is like, yeah, if we're gonna fight this war, I know someone really reliable that we can recruit. Because he fails to get a few people that they wanted.
Right, yeah, and they want to go recruit him. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
And there's a big deal with, like, the Spurdia have been, like, found out to be living in this village by the, what is it, the behavioral kingdom or whatever, in the upper right kind of area of the central continent, right? Near-ish to the Ogre God Kingdom, that kind of stuff. And basically the Spurdia are all living there. Ryujerd has found them. But before they go meet with them, they hear about the country is paying a whole expedition of adventurers to go try and wipe them out because they think they're demons and that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And through this, they've hired, the North God or North God in the Sword, like, God, all that kind of stuff. They know that they've hired someone really strong people. I want to say they just know it's the North God at this point or something like that.
I forget. There's a lot of gods. It's hard to keep track.
Yeah. Either way, they know it's going to be... They've got a lot of really strong people, so they want to prevent this kind of thing. So, make their way into the Spurdia village and all that kind of stuff. Meet up with Ryujerd again. Explain the situation, all that kind of stuff. And, it's nice because I think Orsted mentions in prior time loops, Ryujerd usually doesn't, by the time he meets with all of the Spurds, they're long wiped out already at this point.
Yeah.
And he's, the last one. But in this timeline, because he comes to the central continent earlier, because he came with Eris and Rudius, he finds them early enough to, be there before they get wiped out, that kind of stuff. Which is very good. Quite good.
Very good.
Very good. But it also means that he is now also threatened by what is going to wipe them out, which we thought was maybe the expedition kind of thing. But we find out they're all sick with a plague kind of deal, right?
Yeah, they got I don't know exactly what all their symptoms were, but they were just dying from magic sickness, kind of.
It's pretty much the same thing Nanahoshi had. We find out, right? It's they lived in Magic Continent where there's a lot less mana in the food and that kind of stuff, and so it's really fucking with them, kind of thing. Among with other things, no, enough. Among with Dark King Vita is also poisoning them, kind of, because he's mixed in with all of them or whatever. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But so yeah, they're all really sick, and they get Cliff to come help identify, and they figure out, oh wait, this should probably help, and that's how they start taking care of it. But they also, Orsted has mentioned Dark King Vita is he's not relevant yet, probably, but he's
he will appear soon.
Yeah, he's always an apostle of Hitogami, pretty much, which we learn about him, and it's he's up in the Heaven Continent and labyrinths and shit, and he's just a fucking slime, but he's gotten so strong through Hitogami's influence and stuff that he's
slime?
Completely loyal. Yeah, he's completely loyal and has done a bunch of crazy shit with him. So pretty crazy. That would be an interesting side novel or something to read.
Yeah, about. I was always curious about what the Heaven Continent and the underwater continent look like, and the fighting god continent and stuff.
Right. We know.
Oh yeah, we know that one, but
yeah, we know that one, but we know almost nothing about the Heaven Continent. Or the sea race, really.
Yeah.
We know about a couple of the conflicts they've gotten into, and that they had the fighting god armor, but
we never see it or any of that stuff.
Yeah. And it's a big deal because it's they're the reason you have to go all the fucking way around the stupid ass world instead of just sailing through the middle to get to the Magic Kingdom or Magic Continent and all that kind of stuff. So, pretty big deal. They have a lot of the landmass underwater. So, so yeah, we get to a fight. Ryujerd is being controlled by Dark King Vita, and they have to duke it out a little bit. And it's Rudius probably can't win this one-on-one in close quarters. Ryujerd is stronger than King rank, and up close, Rudius did his best to survive against awe. Right?
He tried.
which he was successful in.
He did.
But through the help of everyone else. Like, a lot of his deal was, like, buying time there. So, the fight kind of happens, but, like, what Dark King Vita goes for is he goes for, like, possession of Rudius instead of just trying to kill him with Ruijerd, because he thinks it can be a win condition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a pretty complicated sequence. It's also kind of a cop-out. I mean, so Dark King Vita's, like, possession is, like...
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, like, Ruijerd is like, hey, Rudius, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
He just calls him out one night. I don't know if anything else. And he's like, okay. He goes out, and then he basically puts him inside of Rudius, like, through his mouth or something.
Right, yeah.
And then he has this, like, dream sequence where he's married to a bunch of random people he's known.
Yeah,
like,
the big dream sequence is, like, living different perfect lives and stuff like that.
Because I think what would happen is he'd be stuck in there infinitely without the ring.
Right, yeah.
Essentially,
but,
so.
Before they left Kingdom Shirone, Death God Randolph was like, hey, take this ring, it might come in handy. Which, this ring just so happens to be Counter Dark Vita ring. So, I don't know about that one.
I mean, you just think of it like an Orsted prevention method. He's like, yeah, I knew this would happen. So.
Yeah, pretty much. Which Orsted is like, yeah, I know what that ring does. You should take it. Eventually, you might run into Dark King Vita. We don't know, like, that those two statements are connected until, like, now. So it's not like an ass pull where it's like, oh, I just so happen to have the ring that beats Dark King Vita on me.
Yeah, it's like he went
Orsted set it up.
Yeah, many times. So.
Yeah, Orsted set it up intentionally in some way. So it's just like, it feels a little bit ass-pulley because it's like we and Rudius are not in the know. But I wouldn't call it badly written. I think it would be... I really like the way it's depicted because it's like, all the perfect life kind of stuff. Like he imagines a bunch of different perfect lives, like, oh, where he's married to Ariel or where he's married to Aisha, ?
Yeah.
Or like the Beast Clan princesses, all this kind of stuff. And it's like all these perfect lives, but always nagging at the back of his mind is Paul shows up and he's like, hey, aren't you supposed to be out there, like, doing something? That kind of shit.
Oh,
and then, it happens over and over. And, like, I don't know, that part kind of got to me because I was like, man, I love Paul so fucking much.
I miss him, bros.
Yeah. And, like, Paul is, like, he's kind of that symbol of, like, you're not living a perfect life, you're living your life kind of thing. Because Paul is dead, and that's not perfect by any means. But, like, it's your best life in that way.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been cooler maybe if instead of, like, the ring doing it and all that kind of stuff, it was, like, a matter of, like, willpower kind of stuff. But I don't know if that would, like, make as much sense in the context of, like, how the mechanics of all kinds of stuff works. Like, I don't know. I just think it could have been a little bit better done, but I think it was still good.
Yeah, no, I think it was fine. It was kind of fun, so.
Yeah, so. Yeah, I was really happy that was, like, the what breaks him out kind of thing. So. What else happens now? There's a bunch of chapters about stuff happening. And then, we're going back to, what is it? Like, is it like the expedition gets canceled, so they send people with Rudius to go inspect the Spurdia village and, figure out are they good guys or bad guys kind of thing. And Rudius is going with them to prove their innocence, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
So he takes two random strong guys with him from the expedition in armor who have, like, aliases and stuff. Rudius figures out, goddamn, these guys are pretty fucking strong. And so, they check out the whole area and they're like, oh yeah, Spurdia are fine. That's cool. And they're on their way back. And when they're on their way back, that's when this whole plot, the final fight really begins and the whole plot is revealed, right? They're on their way back. They're crossing the bridge. And the two guys Rudius was with, one's on, I think they're surrounding him on the bridge. It's a pretty rickety bridge over this giant abyss, pretty much, where all the earth dragons sleep.
The dragon pit. Ah, shit.
Yeah. The earth dragons don't pose that much of a threat normally because they won't crawl out of the pit, pretty much. It's very difficult for them. And they don't fly or anything. But they're really strong, and there's a lot of them. So if you get put into the pit, you are pretty fucked. And, the two guys with Rudius, one's on one side, one's on the other side. He says, "Are we doing this now? Yeah, let's do it." And they go, "Oopsies! It's the North God and the Sword God. We've been hired by the country and manipulated by Hitogami to take you the fuck out."
Yeah, like two of the fucking strongest people were just like, shit.
Yeah. Rudius is like, maybe I could like beat them or buy time to escape, that kind of thing. But that would require his Mach 1 armor, and we're in the middle of a rickety bridge. If he summons it, he will fall through.
Yeah, I think he's wearing his Mach 2 though, but
but not the Mach 1. Yeah, he's wearing his Mach 2 though. And so it's like they did it specifically now so that he doesn't have any chance of fighting them back. Pretty much, they don't get to kill him perfectly because the bridge will get fucked up, right?
Yeah.
But they cut the bridge and he gets dropped into the fucking pit.
Yeah, well, like last second, he puts on the a part of a tofe that she gave him, right?
Oh, yeah, the protection.
Yeah, so he like starts to put it on, and because he gets it, like he grabs it, it grows back his arm that gets cut off because his other arm gets cut off, I think. So
yeah, because it's like immortal demon body part kind of thing.
Like just like Body Gotti has.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, a lot of stuff happens there. I'm trying to remember who is the guy in the bottom. Oh yeah, Sandor. No, I'm trying to remember what all the names of the people are.
I couldn't tell you.
Because he gets put in the bottom of the pit and he gets saved, right?
Yeah, the glaive dude comes with him, I think. Or is
the
it the glaive axe dude? Yeah, is that Sandor?
I think. Hold on, I'm trying to find it. Yeah, I don't remember this part that super well. I like that Rudius isn't sure if he is dead or not, kind of thing. But while he's out cold in the bottom of the earth pit, right? He gets his first Hitogami vision in like years and years and years, right? And Hitogami's like, I mean, it's tough. Like
Hitogami's, I hate you. You suck. Why would you die?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm in the white dimension, blah blah blah. And he's like, oh, I understand what you did now. That kind of stuff. My guard was lowered. Sword God and North God are here. And Hitogami doesn't say anything. And he's like, Gisu planned it well, blah, 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 blah. All this kind of stuff. Yeah. And Hitogami still says nothing. Rudius is still thinking out more stuff. And, Rudius is like, hey, aren't you going to say something? Like, what the fuck? Like, shouldn't you be like, ha, 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 you lose now, I win. That kind of shit. And Hitogami's just like, ... just die already. Like, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, he is down atrocious at this moment. And he's not guaranteed of his win. That kind of thing. And they have a little bit of an expedition dump that is painting Hitogami's motives. Hitogami basically explains, ever since Rudius has been in this timeline, Hitogami's future has gotten a lot worse. Because basically his power is he can see the future of people. And, there's a limited number. They think, oh, you can only see the future of 3 people. And he's like, well, technically I can see more, but I am forced to see my own future extremely far in advance. So most of my power is used up on that. So that's why it's only 3 people plus me.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, ever since you've been doing more stuff, my future has gotten blacker and blacker, right? And that kind of stuff. So he's like, I wanted to kill you. I only became aware of you as to why that was the problem after the teleportation incident. And there was nothing I could do to kill you at any point during that. Your fate is too strong. Like, he talks about during the Orsted encounter, he thought of many ways to change the future to make it so that Orsted would kill him. But no matter what, Orsted never kills him there. It doesn't happen. Like, there's always some reason he's saved. So, he's like, I've been trying to figure out ways to do it. I had a plan. You fucked it up with the time travel shit back in volume 15. And so he's like, yeah, I see in the future now, like, I'm defeated by Orsted and you're, like,
your descendants are all around me. Yeah.
Yeah. And, my future's looking really bleak. And so he's like, well, damn, that sucks. Why don't you just give up then? He's like, no, fuck it. I'll flip it all and I'll kill all of you. That kind of thing. Like, Hiragami is completely not giving up, no matter what.
Yeah, he's determined.
Yeah, pretty much.
So then, yeah, like that happens. He wakes up with the axe dude in the cave. He's like, "Oh, what's up?"
Yeah.
And then they got to find a way out because if the Earth Dragons aren't like immediately hostile, but if they try to climb out, then they attack them.
Yeah, there's a lot of conditions.
And so then they're like, oh, they find this basically like a cave painting type thing. It's like, oh, if you use this goop stuff, they won't attack you.
Yeah, the guy is Doga.
Oh, Doga.
And he was just like an additional guard with them. He is a king ranked warrior, king to emperor-ish, but like officially king.
He's raw.
There's a lot more about him in Redundancy. Basically, he's just a random ass dude that grew up in the sticks, but he's always been really physically strong. His technique isn't very good, but he got an axe and he's strong as fuck. And it led to him being king ranked pretty much.
That's based.
I mean, they talk about in Redundancy like part of his backstory that led him to like being better known was like his dad always told him to protect his sister and that kind of shit. And one day he's at home and there's like been a monster attack that's been killing a bunch of people in their village, and so he's become so obsessed with like dealing with it that he's like stood outside a guard of his house like to protect his sister the whole time. And this like really smart, intelligent, strong magic beast comes in and he just fucking murders it, like that kind of thing, because he's just paying such good attention. He's like been training so hard. So pretty base dude.
Yeah.
I also want to note that Doga, as a big bulky dude in armor, is almost 100% a reference to Fire Emblem, because in Fire Emblem 1, one of the characters that is like notable, he's not like a fan favorite particularly, but like a well-known kind of guy, is Drog is his name, and the English anyways, and in Japanese the name is Doga. Why is it different in each? Because if you flip the names around in Japanese with the katakana or whatever, it spells Gado, like guard, and Drog backwards is guard. So, haha, he's in big armor. That's why his name is Gardo, or guard, that kind of thing, but backwards. So, this also being a big, bulky dude named Doga is almost 100% a reference to Fire Emblem.
I see.
So, I thought that was very funny.
I've only played one Fire Emblem game, so you're more knowledgeable than I am.
Yeah, I haven't played that game, but I just know that fact. So, yeah. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
good reference.
So yeah, they get the juice stuff on them and they climb out. And everyone's like, "Oh, holy fuck, you're alive!"
Yeah, they also find to find the entrance. There's like old dragon scriptures and shit like that too. Right, it's a little bit cryptic.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically the important part is they get out, right?
Yeah, and then they arrive back, and then I don't know. Is Aerith there then by that point? They know that Gisu's army's coming, right? With all the people, so you're like, okay, well, we're gonna have to start to set up.
I'm trying to figure it out.
I think Aerith is there.
Remember. Yeah. If not, she gets there soon.
So then she meets up with Ryujerd again. Dead End is fucking together for the first time.
Her and Ryujerd team up together, and North God and Sword God are like attacking soon at this point.
Yeah.
So the first of those to happen is the North God, Rudius, and the North God is fighting Rudius, Doga, and we find out one of the other guard guys that they had, I think it was Sandor, is actually the former North God, right?
Yeah, he's the first generation one, I think.
Or I think it's second. Because
he saw second and then third, yeah.
Yeah, because Alexander Ryback is third.
But you missed the important part when they show up at the other side of the bridge and the dude tries to like jump over the cliff and just falls and fucking eats shit.
I like very barely remember that.
They like cut the bridge down and they're like, how do we get across now? And Alexander's like, I got it. They like knock him over and he falls in the pit.
I think I remember that actually, yeah.
It's funny.
Holy.
Yeah,
so yeah, the fight is there's two fights happening at the same time. North God versus Rudius, Old North God, and Doga. And on the other side of the place, there's Sword God versus Eris and Ryujerd.
I think there's another fight too. The Ogre God versus Zenoba. And
Ogre God and Zenoba.
Doga and Zenoba fight the Ogre God. I don't think Doga fights with Alex. I think it's just Rudius and the...
Well, because I know the rest of them get involved in the North God fighting. Maybe it takes him a little bit longer to get there.
It's because it's after they kill Galfarian. Yeah, then they come and help.
Yeah, but do they really hold him off that whole time just with the two of them?
Yeah, I think so.
I see. Okay. So yeah, the first of those fights to really start is the Sword God Golfarion versus Eris and Ruijerd. This fight is pretty simple. The deal is Sword God is here. Why is the Sword God here? Geno Brits fucking beat his ass because he was starting to lose confidence a little bit. And Geno, around this time, you learn about it way more in redundancy chapters, but it starts to gain his own confidence back. And Geno beats him in a fight and completely emasculates him, kind of deal. And Golfarion is really, really upset about it. And so he comes here, hired, manipulated by Hitogami, whatever. And so him and Eris fight, and they kind of talk shit to each other a little bit, and he's like, well, I'll excommunicate you, Eris, and she's like, whatever, I don't fucking care, and she's like, she calls him feminine, she's like, you've become way more feminine, you're not fighting in anything you believe in anymore, that kind of shit. He gets really fucking mad at that, and they have a big old fight. It's basically a mind game of who will sort of like the other person, and will they be able to counter it, that kind of thing.
Who will gaslight the other better?
Who will gatekeep best?
We know who's girl bossing best.
I don't know. Yeah, and so basically the idea is that Golfarion, of course, is stronger than Eris and has the advantage. Basically what ends up happening is Golfarion, knowing he has an advantage, goes for Eris, thinking she has to play around that advantage and reversal the Sword of Light. But what ends up happening is instead of all that kind of stuff, basically Golfarion goes to make a Sword of Light. They swing at a similar time, and of course Golfarion is going to be a little bit faster. But why the fuck is Ruijerd there? Of course, to cover her back. And so he blocks his Sword of Light barely, just good enough to buy time for Eris to complete her Sword of Light and slash him in half and kill him, basically. And he's like, you know what? Yeah, that's my bad.
It's really funny that all fucking Sword God style fights are just old Western quick draws.
Yeah, pretty much. Or can you perfectly reversal it?
Yeah.
So yeah, that happens. Golfarion dies.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Sorta. He's kind of an asshole, but yeah.
Yeah. Not a bad guy. Just kind of lost his confidence at the end and just ended up doing whatever. The thing with the upper echelon of sword styles is a lot of them don't really care about the details of political struggles and who the good guys are in the government, that kind of shit. They just want to fight people who are on their level. And so this battle kind of comes and him dying as a result of, well, okay, I just want to fight. I don't care whose side it is on. If he was a little bit more discerning about why are we fighting them even, maybe could have been prevented, but that's how it goes.
It sure is.
Yep. And then we've got all the stuff uncovering about Alexander Ryback, North God III, Cowman III, and second Cowman, other North God, former North God.
Yeah.
And we've got Arison. Is Ruijerd in this fight? I think he's in this fight.
Yeah, I think it's him, and the Tofei also helps later. Or maybe that's when the Ogre God... I don't know. At some point, they fight the Ogre God, too, though. And
I really don't remember. The Ogre God part is pretty much a side thing. I mean, the Ogre God's not super important.
He's kind of raw, though.
Yeah.
He's basically just a good dude. And they're just they're threatening my homeland, so I will help because that is what you told me. Yeah,
pretty much. He's kind of just a fucking DPS check, right? He's not very smart.
Yeah.
He's just, Zenoba and a couple others keep him at bay while they fight North God, who we learn to deal with the Kelman II and III, former North God and current North God. While he's the current North God, Alexander Ryback hasn't super taken the title of Emperor yet. Because he wants to be a proper hero. He's obsessed with the concept of being a hero, that kind of thing. And for him, he hasn't accomplished anything quite worth it yet, and this is his battle to do that. So it's very easy to manipulate him as a Kirigami apostle kind of deal.
Yeah.
And, we learn the deal. He's really strong, though. He's really fucking strong, though. And Kalman II, Sandor, who's working with them, he says, I gave up the title, and I said he could take it, but he's not interested in taking it quite yet. But I've given up the title. And the reason is because I always used this, gravity sword, pretty much. And he's like, I was always so strong and undefeatable. But then I realized, it was less me and more that the sword is, one of the most broken swords in the entire fucking world, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just
a gravity reversing sword and shit.
It's complete control of, gravity magic type shit, pretty much, in the sword. And it also, unleashes fucking black holes and type shit, right? It's just incredibly fucking broken. As long as you're a very competent sword master and that kind of shit. And he's like, I realized I wasn't all that without that sword, I wasn't all that crazy. And so I gave it up. So he was like, I wanted to become me without the sword. Whereas now, Kalman III, Alexander Ryback, has the sword. And he is really good with it. And he's desperately trying to prove himself.
Yeah, he does go crazy.
And so, it takes fucking all 3 or 4 of them to fight Alexander Ryback, and they're still losing. He goes crazy.
He's really fucking strong.
And this is such a protracted battle. It's such a long thing of okay, here are our resources. Sandor is our tank, and he can hold him off for a while, but eventually it's a losing battle, and I heal him and all that kind of stuff, and we distract him longer. But Alexander Ryback, he's immortal demon blood also. So he's got a lot more stamina, and eventually will run out of mana, and eventually he will break through.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. It's depicted as they're losing a battle of attrition slowly because he's so fucking strong. And so eventually he does break through, right? And how exactly does it happen? I don't quite remember.
I'm trying to think. So the fight, I'm pretty sure they're losing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what caused it, but eventually they fall into the pit. I think it's because Rudius' Mach 3 armor finally gets ready, right?
No, it's the Mach 1 still.
I thought they were getting the shit kicked out of them until Sylphie and Roxy come back with the Mach 3, and that's kind of what turns the fight.
No, they come back with the Mach 1. The Mach 3 is what he uses for Bodyguardi.
Oh, okay. It must be the Mach...
or maybe the Mach 0? Wait, no, you might be right. Hold on.
No, yeah, Mach 0 I think is for the Fighting God armor and Bodyguardi, but maybe it's for both.
Yeah.
I thought the 0 gets destroyed, but it's revealed when he's fighting that guy.
Hold on. I'm trying to read this. I'm sorry. You can keep talking.
Yeah, I'm just trying to. I'm trying to think because I thought that's what happens. They get the shit kicked out of them, and then they're like, "Okay, so we got the new fighting armor," and then they push him, and they fall into the pit, and that's when Rudius actually they think he kills him. He goes fucking crazy. He versus the gravity magic on him.
Yeah, they all get super fucked up basically, and it ends in Kalman III, Alexander Ryback, and Rudius falling into the pit. Rudius doesn't take that much damage from it. I mean, he's still pretty fucked up at this point.
Yeah.
But he's in the Mach 1, all that kind of stuff. Whereas, at this point, Alexander Ryback has, one of his arms is working, and, one of his legs kinda is wounded, all that kind of shit. He's really fucked up.
Yeah.
But he's in the bottom of the pit, and he's like, this is where I make my fucking final stand. This is, the hero always wins at insurmountable odds kind of thing. And Rudius predicts, the way he's going to use gravity to make the situation better, and perfectly counters what he's going to do, and just beats the shit out of him. I mean, fucking auras the shit out of him into the wall.
Yeah, right? He fucking flattens him into the wall.
Yeah, and he's like, I just killed him. That's what he thinks. And so they get back up. Stuff with the Ogre God is done pretty much. And they're like, okay, I think we fixed everything for the most part. Now we just gotta wait for Bodyguardi. And so is this where then they wait and Bodyguardi stuff happens?
Yeah, no, so they think they kill Alex, right? And then he comes.
They think they did.
So then they're like talking, and then he comes back. And he's like, "Oh fuck, we can't beat him again." And then Orsted shows up and actually uses his mana.
Well, that's way after Bodigatti though.
No, I thought it was because I think isn't Bodigatti the one who just shows up, or maybe I don't know. There's a lot of
because the fight with Alex happens after Bodigatti. I'm like almost certain.
Like, you mean when he reveals himself?
Yeah. When he reveals himself to actually still be alive. I think it's like they beat him there, and then he's taking time to regenerate over days or whatever when the Bodigatti fight starts happening. And then he comes back. And because he's in the Fighting God armor, remember?
Oh, Alex is? Yeah.
Yeah, Alexander's in the Fighting God armor at the end, and that's why they're like, fuck, we can't beat him again.
Oh.
And that's why Orsted does it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's the timeline. But, getting into the fight with Bodigatti and all that kind of stuff, I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's a whole setup, right? Of what do we do against Fighting God Bodigatti in the Fighting God armor? He's like way too fucking powerful.
Yeah.
They set up a bunch of traps to stall him and all that kind of stuff, but ultimately they're gonna have to fight him.
The Ogre God actually joins their side for a bit. So.
Yeah, Ogre God joins their side for a bit, and then he fucking dies. He gets killed by Bodigatti.
He sure does. Very
sad because he's a good guy. But yeah, and so So the real is like Gisu Bodigatti in the Fighting God armor. That's what they were doing the whole time, building their strength among other things. And so they put a bunch of traps and stuff to slow him down and buy time. What they're buying time for is they're trying to make the fucking Mach 0, which is a even more upscaled version of the Mach 1, which he'll only be able to use enough mana for a little bit, but it should put him on a physical level with Bodigatti for a while.
The ultimate weapon.
Yeah, the ultimate fucking weapon. They're stalling for time for that. They're also fighting Gisu and some of his troops and stuff like that. A lot of tricky stuff happens with Gisu. Gisu just tries to kill Rudeus in a bunch of different ways. Like, do you remember the one part where it's like he spots him out in the forest, shoots him with some magic or something, and Gisu just drops there, and Rudeus is like, "Did I get him?" kind of thing. But he's like, "I don't want to go check. This feels like a trap."
Yeah, and it was.
He just sits there watching for like hours on end. Like, I can't go check. It has to. He's like going to try to kill me somehow. And eventually, at some point, Gisu just gets up and like shrugs, like, "Oh, didn't work," and walks away, kind of thing.
Fucking Northgard style, bro.
Yeah, actually. So that was fucking crazy.
I do remember that. Yep.
Yeah. And eventually, the big fight with Bodigatti happens. They got the Mach 0, and it turns into a relatively even fight. But the difference being that Bodigatti, you fucking punch a fucking hole through his chest and he resurrects. So what they do is they make a bunch of magic circles that will seal off his resurrection, his individual parts, and Rudeus has to, in his limited time span, avoid damage and rip off each of like his limbs and body like to pieces and put them into different magic circles to seal him off from regenerating.
Yep.
So it's kind of hard to describe in a way that makes it sound hype, but basically it's just a big final battle of doing that, and I've only got 5 minutes left of this, that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm. And Tofei gets, I think, like punched halfway across the world or some shit. I don't remember what happened.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That's tough.
That happens in I think the God of High School. They're like kind of later. There's this one dude and they're fighting, and he gets punched, and he just flies from like Korea to India, and then runs back across the ocean. It's really funny.
That's so raw.
That show, the power scaling of that show goes fucking insane.
Yeah, fucking God of High School as well. Oh man. But final big fight is just those two duking it out, and eventually Rudeus is very barely able to rip all the pieces apart and put them in the magic circles, and they've won the final fight. It's pretty sick. And in this process, like, Gisu is taking damage and he's like burning to death kind of thing.
Yeah, it feels bad, man.
Yeah, it feels bad. The whole battle's done. Battle's decided. Gisu is lost. Rudeus like goes to Gisu as he's like basically a corpse at this point, and Gisu's like, I thought maybe for a minute maybe I could actually do it, but a guy like me, I could never. That kind of thing.
Yeah,
it feels real bad.
In a lot of ways, he's like a parallel of Rudeus.
Yeah, it's like, Yeah, imagine if you were summoned here and you weren't so godly, stupid, powerful, huh? It would sure fucking suck, wouldn't it? Like, you would do anything to, like, get to that level.
Yeah.
There's a big point of, like, he'll never understand what it's like to be in that position, you know? But in some ways he does, because it's similar to how he was when he was in NEET a little
right,
bit.
Yeah,
just feeling so powerless.
It's like the whole parallel between them. It's really good. Gisu's a good character.
Yeah, he's a very good character, because he's so sympathetic in that way.
Yeah.
Like, he's not just a fucking evil guy. He's not like, we were friends, but now I will kill you, Rudius. It's like, you got a legitimate bone to pick, and a reason for picking it, and a reason he acts the way he does.
Yeah.
So, it's pretty sad. Pretty sad. I mean, fuck, man. Looking at Paul's old party now, it's like, Paul's dead, Zenith is fucking invalid, pretty much, and Gisu's dead now, too. Like, party's just getting wiped out one by one. Pretty sad. But, you know, they did it. They did it, baby. Then we get, you know, kind of the last chapter, which is like the first chapter of volume 24, right? Is like, that's Rudius on his deathbed. Like, he's like fucking 70 something at this point, way in the future. Rudius is on his deathbed. Eris has been dead for like a couple weeks or something at this point. And of course, Roxy and Sylphie are still alive because they're longer living races.
That shit's sad, man.
Yeah, that shit is pretty sad. And, you know, he's got kids and grandkids and shit like that by his deathbed. And he gets a final, you know, he finally dies around a bunch of people, his family, who love him and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty sad. And when he dies, he gets a final vision from, like, Hitogami, right? Where Hitogami's kind of like, haha, you're dead. That sucks, doesn't it? You know what? I showed you that vision of me getting beat up a long time ago as, like, to throw your guard down. In these last 40 years or so, like, or like 50, I guess, fuck. You haven't been doing that much to maneuver around me, and I'm going to take away everything you love again still in the future. Like, I'm not done yet, that kind of thing. But Rudius at this point, like, he can't even really get, like, mad at him or hate him
like,
anymore.
Yeah, I had a good life, whatever.
He's just like, well, yeah, that, and he's like, you know, he knows it's kind of a way of, like, Hitogami kind of coping a little bit, and he kind of feels bad for him in that way. He's like, I get it, you just want to survive, but still, man. So it's a little bit tough. It's kind of, you know, it kind of feels like that, like, I don't know, how do you put it? Like, it's kind of like that fucking Wojak meme where it's like, oh, I bet you're so mad right now. I bet you're so mad right now. I'm not mad at all. That kind of thing, like from Hitogami. Whereas, like, the other guy's just like, yeah, buddy, you doing okay? Like that kind of thing.
Can I get a Hitogami Wojak?
I always think of the fucking image of Orsted punching fucking Hitogami from the fucking, is that Last of Us 2 fucking the overlay? That meme?
Yeah, I think
that shit is
think
so funny. That shit is so funny. Yeah. So yeah, kind of a bittersweet ending. And then the like final chapter of the volume kind of thing. There's like a side story where it's like a biography of Rudius, and we get like a brief glimpse of what he does. So like after the final battle, all that kind of stuff. A lot of cool setting details, right? Like what is it? You know, he makes a thing that like mana potions, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's like,
oh yeah, we get like the whole every like impact he made on the world, like how he's written in the
all
history
the rumors
books
about him and shit. Yeah, it's super cool. It's really satisfying. And they also talk about, like, because of the mana potions, it's kind of coming to the era where it's like swordsmen are not automatically the strongest over magicians in one-on-one combat anymore, kind of deal. Which is pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, Rudius is dead at the end, and then the final chapter is we learn about the playback Miko, who summoned Rudius and all them to the world, pretty much, to try to get herself out of the bad situation she's in. And it kind of sets up for a sequel with Akito, all that kind of stuff, and the story's over.
Wow.
Over.
Wow.
I don't know. What do you think about the ending?
I liked it a lot. I mean, it's like kind of unsatisfying, but you know that's the kind of ending you're in for, so.
Right. I mean,
like he won. Orsted and Rudius did win. They did what they set out to do.
Right.
So you're kind of just like, well, I guess just got to see what the descendants do.
Right, pretty much. Sets us up for a sequel, and it's like, the onset from the beginning is like, this is a story about Rudius. Rudius will not live long enough ever to see the Laplace War and see Hinokami defeated.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
I do really like the part where it talks about how there's basically that person that Rudius takes over when his spirit comes in, or like how Paul and Z and this kid were going to be a stillborn before.
Yeah. That part is good. Yeah, basically in all the other timelines, he was a stillborn. But since he's reincarnated, he takes that over instead. It's quite nice. There's also a conversation with Orsted in the Spridia village in the central continent, where it's like, I don't know why this reminded me of it, but he asks about like his mana pool. He's like, was I just like gifted at birth then because of the Laplace factor?
Yeah, he's like, nah, you worked hard.
He's like, I mean, it helped, but like it's mostly because of your hard work. You can like feel good about that. It's not just like you were born and you get OP power kind of shit.
Yeah.
It's like, that feels good, man.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Hey all, I'm adding this in post, but I just realized that in this we forgot to talk about how Orsted defeats Alexander Rybak in the Fighting God armor at the very end, and what that means. We talked about it for like half a second, but basically I just wanted to say I think it's a really, really cool moment, because it's kind of, a character arc for Orsted in the way that he's getting the ability to trust in and believe in his allies, such as Rudius's descendants and Rudius, to put in enough like work and effort to make up for this lack of mana in what is like otherwise a situation where he thinks it's like pretty much unwinnable against Hinokami at this point. So I think it's a really cool arc of him to like, trust in his allies and shit that wouldn't have previously existed. I think it is a really cool touch, and I'm glad they had that be the ending of the series. It's a lot of development for Orsted. It's really subtle, but I really enjoyed it. So I just wanted to mention that so we don't forget. But anyways, back to whatever podcast part.
I think that's everything, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, that's everything.
Good.
What other
good web novel?
Yeah, really, really.
I've read 2 web novels. The other being
yeah.
ReZero. So
I've read one. I read part of the Roku no Yusha light novel. I read like a volume of that. Maybe sad, because that story is so fucking. It's just a bunch of twists and turns to fuck you over. The beginning of the light novel, where the anime leaves off, the beginning of it is, oh my god, this main character is dead. Doesn't that feel shitty? And then it warps you back in time to like see how it all happened. And it's like, man, I'm gonna cry. But yeah, I mean, any other thoughts on sections? I mean, I really liked at first, like, Alexander Rybak is kind of a character you want to, like, you hate a lot.
Yeah, you're kind of sympathetic towards him near the end, though, because...
Yeah, definitely. Because, like, right away, I'm like, this guy's such a fucking idiot, like, with his full-blown, like, hero complex type shit, Like, I get he's, like, half immortal race, so he's, like, a fucking idiot. But, you just kind of want to hate him a little bit, because he doesn't care about killing people for his, like, stupid hero complex type shit.
Yeah.
But, at the end, you're like, yeah, I understand, like, how he felt like he couldn't live up to his dad and all that kind of shit, and that he wanted to accomplish all this other stuff. So, he becomes sympathetic. And in the redundancy chapters, he's a super fucking cool guy. So,
nice.
He's Chad.
I'll have to read that eventually.
Yeah.
Yes,
but, he's a cool dude. He's a good guy. I really like him as a character. He's also got a raw-ass name.
Alexander Rybak.
I mean, that's fucking raw name.
That's pretty raw.
His fight is super cool. We finally get to see Rudius, when he beats Alexander Rybak, he takes his place as the North God.
Yep.
So
and his symbol is Roxy's pendant or whatever.
Yeah, the Magridia tribe symbol kind of thing.
Yep.
So we get to see Rudius is one of the 7 powers, right? I mean, 7 world powers. That's kind of what, you read something like this and you're like, 7 world powers, how cool would it be if the main character is eventually one of them, Mm-hmm. And he's finally done it through one final, like, really sick battle where it's like, he gets the drop on him pretty much by figuring him out and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
It's super cool. Super cool. What other sections did we not talk that much about?
I think we got all the important stuff pretty much. We're already running at like 2 hours here, so 2.5.
Yeah, I know. just this is like the end, so I just want to make sure we
Sure.
have everything concluded.
I don't know. I felt like we covered all the important stuff, really. So
Yeah, pretty much. Got a bunch of kids now. That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
he got all of his wives. Amazing.
Yes, sir. Nobody died. Good times. Yeah. I don't know. Did you ever expect anyone would die in this final battle that we super cared about? I wasn't sure. It's kind of scary because like all the wives were pretty much there, right? But like,
I didn't think they would.
right? It kind of doesn't.
I
fit
feel
with
like
the
any of
tone.
them dying would have been like, why did you team up with Orsted? Because you couldn't protect your family in the end.
Yeah,
So I think that would have kind of been contradictory to what was happening.
a little bit. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Shit, man. Good web novel. I really like the series. So much to talk about.
I agree. I mean, we had enough for about 8 hours to talk about. So.
Yeah, pretty much. Super cool. Well, shit. I guess while we're wrapping it up, I just want to say, shout out, like, thank you so much, everyone, for all the support we have gotten on this series.
A few goats.
I mean, yeah, we got a few goats who just comment all the time. Love you guys. Really cool. I enjoy reading all the comments and stuff. I mean, I'm a very small channel, right? And Justin and I pretty much do these podcasts for fun, right? Like, most of these don't have more than like 30 views
I'm
or
still
something.
waiting for my royalty checks to roll in. I don't know about you.
Yeah. Yeah, once we hit 1,000 subs, we can start making money. But pretty much the conceit of these podcasts was just like shows we want to talk about liking, but I don't necessarily have like a video idea. Like, I really like High School of the Dead, and so does Justin.
Yep.
So that was the first one we talked about.
That's pretty much how
It's
we
like-
pick. It's just stuff we like. So
Yeah, pretty much. Or stuff that's like otherwise important in some way, maybe in the future. I don't know. We did joke about doing an Attack on Titan podcast, but I don't think we'll probably do that. So, but with like these last couple, we've been getting like actually pretty good view counts on them, just because so many people are actually watching them. I mean, on the last 2 or 3, we've had like average watch time of like 20 minutes and like 70-ish views, which is so much. I can't even imagine that there's fucking, even 35 people watching this whole thing through.
yeah.
So I cannot thank everyone who's watching these enough. I'm really grateful for your support.
Watching is a relative term. I think you mean listening.
Well,
but
Listening. Yeah. So
put it on your
I appreciate
background
all
while
you guys.
you're, I don't know, frying chicken or something, man.
Playing Minecraft.
Yeah. That's better.
Yeah. Damn, you frying chicken? in there?
Honestly, like, I mean, if people like want to comment on shows we can make podcasts about, we could probably do something like that.
Yeah.
We're
We
gonna
did-
run out of ideas eventually, so
Yeah. We did talk about Berserk one in the other episode.
true. Maybe that'll be next.
That would be a pretty
We can
good one.
get. I don't actually. Gavin's read it, right?
Yeah, Gavin's read it.
Okay, we can get the man,
He read it before I did, I think.
the man
so.
Fooly Cooley on here.
Yeah.
Spunky.
We could probably get 0 for that too.
Oh yeah,
He's-
yeah.
He finished it, so that would be a good one.
It's a loaded
Um,
podcast.
Yeah, actually. I mean, we got to do a Joe podcast at some point.
True.
that one would be crazy. So yeah, I mean, seriously, I cannot thank everyone who's watching these enough. We've had a lot of fun making them. I love talking about this show. So does Justin
Yep.
when he does talk.
Dude, you do so well summarizing shit. I'm like, yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just chime in with my own little inputs and ideas. So
Yeah. That's
I'm here to keep you in line. That's why you hired me.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been really fun. Comment other podcasts you'd potentially like to see. I have my my anime list in the description of like one of the videos. I think the one where I do an overview of my Mal, if you want to like look at a pool of shows to go through for what we can potentially talk about. Yeah, I mean, thanks for all the support. Please also give a chance to my other videos if you're just here for the Mushoku Tensei content.
True.
I know it's hard because not everyone's seen every show. I don't want to watch videos about shows I haven't seen. So I completely understand that. But if it's something you've seen and you're interested in the video concept, give it a try. I think my writing is pretty solid overall. So and they're a lot more concise than these videos that are way too fucking long. But
and we talk a lot. But yeah, Pokecall makes good content. You heard it from me, Justin LLC Incorporated.
Yep. So I don't know. I guess that's the end of the podcast, man. End of Mushoku Tensei. We did it.
We did it.
All right. Well, one last signing out on the Mushoku Tensei podcast. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you wherever the next one may lie. Thank you again, and bye-bye.
Sayonara.
Bye.